Hello, you're listening to the Otaku Spirit Animecast. My name is Andrew, and I'm joined here with Chris.
Yo!
And today we are doing our first impressions of the spring 2016 season. Everybody's been waiting to find out what we think. It's time to let them know.
Are they really waiting for us?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not.
They just put us on play. It's auto-queued in their podcast player, and they're like,
oh yeah, you guys were late.
Yeah, hey, you guys were running a little late.
A little late. But yeah, you can find us on the otakuspirit.com website. You can go there for our news, reviews, and coverage of new and old anime, as well as a cool little article I made about an origami anime versus the manga comparison thing.
You're so proud of that thing.
I'm so plugging it. It took me forever, and it turned out bigger than I thought it would, but I liked it. It was cool. But just keep in mind that is full of Season 1 and 2 Noragami spoilers. It's to show what was in the manga that didn't get included in the anime, so there you go. But yeah, again, we're going to be jumping into the spring 2016 season for our first impressions. We were kind of given, we've always kind of decided to push off until about the 4 mark, when shows start hitting about the 4 mark. Some are kind of lagging behind. That's mainly because an earthquake happened in Japan, and a lot of shows got delayed in their airings. Thankfully, I think it wasn't as bad as usual with Japan, so that's good to hear. But yeah, so there'll be a couple that'll be a little bit behind, but for most part, they're in the 4 to 5 range, so we'll kind of let you know what episodes we're at, so you know how far we got into it, and if we kind of have a good idea of what's going on in there. So, yeah. Are you ready, Chris?
I'm...
It's a lot of shows.
I think we can handle it.
Okay. We'll start off with full-on ecchi.
There's some of these are kind of exciting, and some of them aren't. You know what? I know this is kind of stealing the podcast for a second, but I do kind of want to point something out before we get started. Because I want to get this out of my head before I forget about it. Somebody asked me one time on our forums, if a show can capture me without characters but have a strong story. And I know that there is at least 2 shows this season that are kind of trying to do that for me.
Okay.
And I kind of want to talk about that for a second, because it's one of those things that is so, for me, it's really, really hard to sell a story to me without a good character. And I think that the perfect example of that is Joker Game. And I when we do our first impressions on that, it's going to be important to talk about that. But the other show that kind of is doing that is Kiznaiver, probably, where I'm more interested in the story than I am the characters. But the characters have sold me so much, or are so sold on me, that I'm naturally embracing the story more.
So that's not a good example at all.
Huh?
So that's not a good example at all.
Well, no, I mean, I'm more enjoying the characters in that show, so the story is working for me a lot better than Joker Game, where the characters are very bland. I'm more interested in the side characters than I am in the main characters. Like the 3rd episode, I think it was where he had memory loss, and all that happened in there. I was more interested in the other characters than I was in him. And I think that is one of those things that having 2 shows where the storyline is technically more interesting. I'm going to keep watching Joker Game, but more on the aspect of the story than I am for the characters. And in the end, I'm going to come away with a really, really bad taste of that show if I can't get sold on those characters.
Okay.
I know that's jacking the way the layout of the show is, but I think that's important to say. The difference when Chris is going in, if the characters are not sold to me, I'm not going to be as apt to enjoy the show.
All right. Let's jump into Wagamama High Spec. Is a show that is streaming on Crunchyroll. It's running at episode 3 so far that we've watched. Have genres, and I'm not sure if I'll cover genres in each one of them, but I marked them down. But it's covered in a school. It's got some ecchi in there, and it's basically a comedy. So this is a short series. I didn't actually think that anybody was going to pick this up, but leave it to Crunchyroll to get everything. But it essentially covers, I think we've met, I think there's 4 girls, and they are part of a student council, and just mayhem ensues. Each one of the characters has their own thing, but for the most part, it's really just they're in this room, and topic of this show happens. They mess with that topic, and then it moves on. They had The first episode kind of opened up pretty crazy right off the bat.
Yeah, we never picked that same feel up in any of the other episodes.
That same feel in any of the other episodes. It kind of opened the doors right off the bat with a lot of ecchi, and I was kind of shocked going, okay, we're doing this right off the bat. This is what this show is going to be about. And then it kind of just never does that again. So we got ecchi in the first episode, never again. Second episode was kind of a cooking thing, and the third episode was there was the light novel writer was trying to get inspiration, so they were trying to enact a Yuri scene, and somebody walks in on them.
That was kind of cute.
It was kind of fun, yeah. The first episode was a shocker, was ecchi, fan service kind of stuff, so good on it. Second episode was kind of meh. Third episode was like you said, was kind of funny. And that's kind of pretty much where it kind of left off. I'm not quite sure if there's going to be too much in here, but being a short, not really going to expect too much. It's just a short comedy, like it or leave it kind of thing.
Yeah, I haven't gotten a lot out of it so far. Like Andrew was saying, the first episode was fun. The second episode, I think the characters are cute. That's about it. I haven't really gotten anything else out of it. So I take that for what it is.
And that's our full review of 9 minutes of show.
Mm-hmm.
So let's jump into the next one. Panda Piece, another short. I completely randomized this list, by the way. So if it seems like we're running a lot of negatives or a lot of shorts in a row, then you
can blame Andrew.
You can blame randomizer.org or where the heck that I used randomly. I randomly chose a randomizer.
There was actually a randomizer.
There's randomizers on the internet, yes.
Wow.
Yes. Panda Piece.
I know there's dice on the internet.
Yes.
You can tell it how many 2d20s and all that. That is cool.
This is the We Discovered Things on the Internet, the podcast. There's cute videos of cats on the internet, Chris.
No way. Seriously?
Yes.
Is there any
videos.
cat girls?
Not many. I thought there were. There's furries places. Panda Piece. Let's jump into Panda Piece. We're on episode 4.
This podcast is going nowhere fast.
We have a lot of shows to cover. We have 4 hours of record time that we have available to us, and we're talking about Chris's insecurities about people pointing out that he doesn't like shows about characters. We're talking about furries. We're talking about cat girls and randomizers. So
I think, and the funny thing is people will probably come back and say that they like this episode, and we're like, that was a train wreck. What are you talking about?
A good episode. I thought it was bad. Anyways, we're on episode 4 of Panda Piece, and it's currently streaming on Crunchyroll. And this is another short. If you haven't guessed by the name, if you don't know what pan is, it's basically, bread and pan of peace. So it's bread
Obviously
of peace.
The bread of peace.
Yeah. We're going
How
Spanish.
hard is that? I mean...
Yeah.
Spanish?
Yeah.
Are you sure it's not Chinese?
I thought they got pan from Spanish.
I don't know.
Maybe the Spanish got bread from Chinese or pan from... I don't know. There's somebody's going to tell us in the comments, and good on you.
Congratulations, you're smarter than us.
But you follow right off the bat. You meet Monopoly. This is actually, I think, an 8-minute one. This is one of the more longer ones, I think.
No, actually, I think it is an 8-minute. I don't think it's a full. I don't think it's a half show, but yeah.
But yeah, essentially right off the bat, you meet Minami. She's Genki girl. She runs into school, and she really likes bread. Really, really likes bread. And then she ends up finding that she has some classmates in her new class that also like bread. And then they meet one of the sisters of one of the girls who really likes bread and uses it as a sword. And bread happens. So if you like food, if you like bread specifically, and cute girls, this is basically K-On! With bread. just without guitar riffs with French roll or something. I don't know.
Oh.
I'm making connections.
Why K-On?
Everything goes back to K-On! Everything goes back. If it's cute, it's K-On!
Why can't it be Girls in Panzer with bread?
Because Girls on Panzer is K-On! With tanks. And so unless you want me to go, this is like Girls on Panzer with bread, like K-On! With... never mind. Killing the joke.
Anyway, I like it. I think it's fun and cute. It's not doing anything special or spectacular. They're just cute girls doing cute things with bread.
Pretty much. I was kind of shocked that you ended up being the straight man of the show, because I was kind of expecting Minami. Usually the first character you meet is usually the straight character, and ends up being you. So not you, just you. Haven't you heard? I'm Sakamoto. This is another one. This is one of the ones that kind of got knocked back because of things that happened.
How about I go ahead and make a referential comparison?
Okay.
This is Tatsuya if he wasn't
in a magical school.
Exactly.
Why did I have to finish that one for you?
Because my brain broke.
Let me make a comparison. Andrew, help me.
See, Tatsuya is so awesome, and Sakamoto is so awesome that my brain just broke.
Yeah, haven't you heard I'm Sakamoto or Sakamoto Desuga is essentially about Sakamoto, as Chris kind of describes. He is Tatsuya, just without magical powers.
Without magical powers.
He could have magical powers, we just haven't seen it yet.
That's possible.
He did catch a bee with like a protractor or something like that, so that was kind of crazy. But yeah, this essentially is in a school setting. There's this guy in the school named Sakamoto, and everything he does is like he does it in a way that is epic. Like somebody throws his I don't know why people throw desks out windows. That seems kind of dangerous. They throw his desk out the window. Well, he'll just open a window and sit down and look gorgeous, and all the women are squeeing about it because he's looking good with his book, and he's like, "Continue on, teacher. I'll be fine."
He's even making other guys question their...
Yes, he makes a lot of men question themselves.
Exactly.
Yes.
He's just that cool.
He's Sakamoto.
I mean,
not cool. He's Sakamoto.
True.
Haven't you heard?
I'm not awesome enough to even possibly give Sakamoto a qualification as to whether or not he is awesome. He's Sakamoto. I'm a failure as a person because of...
Just quit.
Just quit.
Goodbye, everybody.
Andrew just dropped the mic.
Out of here. I'm done. This is such a terrible episode.
We're just crazy today.
Anyways,
what did you drink?
Something in this mix. I'm kind of divided on the show because coming into it, it was really funny with the first episode because it was basically setting up the idea that this guy is just epic. So
second episode didn't work?
I'm getting to that. So they're doing all these little, he's doing this and he's really epic. He's doing this and he's really epic. They pull out his chair and he's able to sit without a chair and he looks really awesome doing it. Second episode I liked because it was Aina and she was like trying to...
That's right.
Swoon him and he just kind of completely missing everything that she's throwing at him. And the third episode was kind of GTO-ish. Like, there's this guy with an issue but what's funny is he doesn't really care. I haven't quite gathered if Sakamoto cares or not. So when this guy's having issue with bullies, he's like, well, I guess you just keep giving your money and ask your mom for more, and walks away. And the guy's like, wait, you have to help me.
I thought that was the second episode. Wasn't that the two parts?
I don't know. So the one with Yoshinobu and him being bullied.
I didn't think he was that bad. Here's the thing that I think that this show is trying to do, and I kind of appreciate it on one aspect. In the other hand, I can see what it's trying to do, but I don't know that in the long run I'm going to always enjoy that.
That's what I was kind of getting to. It's like you played your cards in the first episode. Then I'm kind of going, what else do we have? Is this going to be the entire show? Because the difficulty that I have is this is a full-length show, and it feels like it should be a short. I know I love bringing that up like with so many shows, but this one feels like it would have been perfect in small bursts.
Yeah,
and
that's the thing for me is really, in all actuality, what this show is about, it's not about Sakamoto. I don't want... Yes, it is about Sakamoto, but it's more about the reactions of people around him. Mm-hmm. That's where the jokes inlay. It's Aina realizing that Sakamoto is just too awesome for her. Or it's Yoshinobu being... beaten the crap out of it, and then Sakamoto just randomly making his life better by taking him to go get a job and going and get a job with him. Or Yuya having a queen bee boxer shorts or something. I don't know what thing is.
That thing is. He's become a comedian. It's like, okay, yeah, that's disturbing.
Yeah, he was walking around in normal.
Even after the incident, that's his new thing. That's his new thing, apparently.
But that's the thing is Sakamoto is, and I know I said that really bad, but Sakamoto, he's cool, but the thing is he's only the thing that things are happening around.
He's the punchline.
Yeah, he's the punchline. He's not the actual. I can't remember him really ever saying anything. I mean, he obviously talked to Yoshinobu, but it's one of those things. I don't even remember his real voice. So
very, very soft. Yeah. So yeah, that's. I just realized that we've only seen 2 episodes because this was the one that got pushed back a lot. So this is the one that we really haven't got fully caught up on. So essentially, I think both those scenarios were in the 2nd episode. But yeah, it's just. Yeah, I got the joke. It's a good joke, and I just hope that they continue to do something with it. So it's like, I approve of show, but I have this, I hope it keeps it up kind of thing, because I can see this getting killed really quickly, because that's the punchline they have. How many different ways can you deliver to that punchline is a big question. Can you give me enough? Because I kind of agree with you. I feel that it is a show about the characters around them. Just like when we get into it, Tanaka-kun is always Listless.
I was going to say the same thing there.
Tonari no Saki-kun. Mm-hmm. Those shows are about the people around this really weird person.
And that's not a bad thing. It's just that it's one of those things that I mean, when we're watching it and we're thinking of it from the long run, how long can you play this joke out? If they evolve that joke, which is very, very possible. I've seen shows do it, and I think that there's shows that have pulled it off. Some shows that have totally murdered the joke. They've ran the joke into the ground so many times, you don't know what to do with it. And I'm not saying that Sakamoto will do either of those things. It's just right now, in the long run, I see the joke. I see how you're doing it. I think that there's potential here, but how are you going to do it in the long run? I personally, I don't want to see him fix lots of people. I want to see different people react to him. That's where it's doing well.
Yeah, that's the scary part for me, because it's like the moment when the girl approached him, Aina approached him, it was like, this is what this is. This is I'm going to get at him in my own way. And so it's like, okay, here comes new scenario of how can they play off of him. So my struggle is, does in the next episode suddenly there's a new guy and he's like, well, I think I'm better than him, so I'm going to prove him wrong. And I'm like, well, we already did that with Yuya. I mean, how many times can you do that? Yuya being the pretty boy that fought the bee. So I don't want to kill on that too much, because like I said, it's doing something in those first 2 episodes that I enjoyed. I just hope they can keep it up. And please stop with the passing the ball thing. That was like, oh, okay, yeah. The first time that was funny in a way, and then you did it like 3 other times. Well, I think it was about 2 other times, but yeah, you get my point. Moving forward, are you good?
Yep.
All right. Did you touch any of this before I start? Okay. Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn RE0096 or RE0096 or Kido Shinshi Gundam UC RE0096. So I went into this completely blind. I remember Chris was trying to question on the thread, like, is this okay to watch this without any knowledge? Maybe Andrew might jump into it, and I kind of caught that little back and forth, and I said, why not? Because Sawano Hiroyuki is on it, really. But yeah, I jumped into it. I've watched 4 episodes already. I am from the mindset that it's supposed to be a retelling of the OVA that they originally did, and I've heard some feedback that it is not doing things properly, and I know that some people were wondering, hey, I want to know if somebody who has not watched the original OVA, if they would enjoy this. And I can say I'm enjoying it. Yes, I'm enjoying it, and for those who don't know, it essentially is taking place, I think, several years after mankind was trying to create a new age and coming together, and during this coming together, there's a big terrorist attack that completely destroys this space colony of people, and they all die. And it kind of jumps forward, and you're following Menegar Lynx, and he is at a training facility, and some point he ends up running into this girl named Audrey, and she's kind of a mystery. And at the same time,
she's adorable.
Okay, yeah. And in the background, essentially, there's the Zeon and the Federation, and this group is trying to pass on this, what they call the Laplace's box, to the Zeon. And there's a group called the Sleeves that are there to acquire it. And during that time, this Audrey girl who runs into Banagher Links is trying to stop that passing on from happening. She's trying to prevent a war from happening. She does not want them to give them this Laplace's box. And after they meet with Vist, who is the one that's actually giving this box away, tries to stop them in that way. He's kind of pushed away, and things start going down. The Federation shows up, and they pass over what they call the key, which is a Gundam, and this Gundam is just a really powerful Gundam. But instead, Banagher Links ends up being the one that is put into this Gundam, and he is putting to stop this war that's happening in the middle of this colony. And that's pretty much as far as I've gotten. I enjoy how gritty the show is. It doesn't hold anything back. There's a lot of mayhem. There's a lot of reality of war that's happening, that going on around Banagher Links. The only thing that I have really a problem with so far is that I think I'm following names properly, and I think that would be a struggle with a lot of people, is following a lot of groups of people, especially coming into it. I don't know what the Zeon is. I don't know what the Federation is, but I'm gathering what these things are. It's really, I think, the problem that I have so far is Banagher Links. And please don't hate me for that. He is probably one of the only characters in the show that I'm not really following all that well, because it starts out, he's a student. He has a real obsession with something. He acknowledges the war, and then at some point he's following this Audrey. He confronts Vist, and he wants to stay with Audrey, but they're like, you need to get out of this situation. You brought Audrey here, thank you, but you need to go away because you shouldn't be involved with what's going on. There's a interstellar war that might be breaking out. You're a student, go away. You shouldn't be involved with this. And he's just kind of, his whole drive is, but I can help you. And it's like, I don't get Banagher Links. So it helps that later on that kind of shifts a little bit, and he's kind of still this character that is kind of thrown into the mix, and he really has no choice, but I'm just not following him as a main character so far. So, but that's just a side point.
You mean he's a character who wants to get in the Gundam?
Yeah, he's an anti-Shinji, but I don't get his drive so far. I guess I didn't have enough time with him so far. I know it's might be a 2-core. I know they have a second intro already set up, so I'm assuming it's going to be a 2-core. The battles are great. I like the politics that are happening. I like the idea of the Zeon kind of resparking and wanting to know more about why Banagher Links is so important to this whole thing. The only side thing that I'm a little bit disappointed in is that I got a little bit spoiled with Iron-Blooded Orphans with their amazing animation they did. This one has some use of CG that is kind of like, whoa, wait, I didn't think Gundam did this kind of stuff. I thought Gundam was all about like hand-drawn combat sequences and stuff. Now I'm seeing a CG mecha moment. And that kind of transitions to my other problem, is I'm afraid this is going to be a overpowered mecha kind of show, because it essentially has this Gundam that is, when he gets into it, it has a second mode where it all lights up and becomes super powerful Gundam, and I'm afraid that might be a thing the show does. But that's just my fears. I'm not saying that's what the show is doing. I'm enjoying it so far, and I hope that I can stick with it, and it doesn't lose me at some point. So, but it's good so far, though.
Good to know.
Good so far. Yeah, that's Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn RE0096. Don't hate me too much. I'm getting mixed messages from the Gundam fans that they're okay with it, they like it, and then there's this group that's like, you're kind of ruining what was so great about the OVA. So I'm like, well, I guess I should just go watch the OVA. So if that's what everybody's saying is the OVA is better, then why not just go watch the OVA and not sit through this one? But we'll see as it goes along.
Maybe somebody will explain it. You got a good picture of Emily.
Emily?
the next one. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I got you. Next one we have is Space Patrol Luluco, or Uchu Patrol Luluco. And this is, we're on episode 5 so far. It's currently streaming on Crunchyroll. I didn't mention before, but Gundam's on like Crunchyroll and Daisuke, so check those out if you want to. But yeah, Space Patrol Luluco. This one kind of follows Luluco as she is in the town of Ugi Kubo, and it is a place that is special in that it is a place where humans and aliens live together, or Earthlings and aliens live together. And Luluco's there with her father, who is a part of the Space Patrol, who kind of keeps this balance between the citizens of this area. And Luluco is special in the idea that she wants to be normal. She wants a normal life, and she's upset the fact that she's in like the most unnormal area in the world or in the universe. And as she's going to school, before she gets to school, her dad gets frozen, and she takes her dad to his workplace, which is the Space Patrol place, and confronts his boss, which is Overjustice. And says, Overjustice, my dad's frozen, he needs help. And she gets claimed that she is the one responsible and gets arrested like 3 times in a row. But eventually they decide, okay, well, if you want him helped, you're going to join the Space Patrol. So they make an honorary member, even though she doesn't want to. And then she goes on to school. But when she goes to her school, she comes to find out that, every time something bad happens involving the aliens, her suit appears on her body.
She has good morphine.
She gets a gigantic. I was wondering when you were gonna say that. She gets a gigantic thing on her head.
So long for it.
She gets a siren thing on her head that tells her something's happening, and then
Justice, gun morphine.
She turns into a giant gun. Her body like contorts into a gun, like a la Megatron, and shoots things, and she's not normal. So, yeah.
This show, this is for me, okay? I think it is bordering on the edge of too manic for me, but I am loving it right now. It is so random, and yet still keeps this kind of through line that is like, I get it. It's fun, and it looks really good. I get a kick out of the cute little... I want to say it's a romance that's budding between these two between her and Nova, and it's like, it's cute, it's fun, but it's not overly dramatic. He's too stone face, and he's not really a big time passionate person, and she's just eaten up his personality. So I like it. It works. I'm not busting up laughing the entire time, but every once in a while I find something really funny. I'm just enjoying myself watching the show.
The Justice Good Morphing. Gotcha.
Justice Good Morphing just makes that I get a kick out of.
I mixed on the show. I'm not really getting too much out of it. It's just really here's something that's decently animated at times and has a weirdness to it. I like the weirdness to it. Just having suddenly they go in this one room and here's this girl and she is selling off this app that allows you to pull things from another dimension, and it's weird in that regard. And then you introduce new character towards the end of episode, or some point in the episode 5 point, and that just throws a huge wrench in the mix, and it's just kind of extremely chaotic. But at the same time, when I finish each episode, I'm going, I don't know if I got anything out of that. Good outro, great outro, and then I move on.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm entertained by the show. I'm not, like I said, it's not, to me, it's not so manic. Like TQ is over manic. I can't watch that show without getting a headache. I sit there and I try to get the jokes. I'm not getting them because it's just going too fast. I don't have time to digest them. This show gives me just enough time to go, okay, I get the joke, let's move on. Like I said, I'm not laughing the entire time, but I am entertained by each episode. So in a way, I'm liking it on that aspect, but it is bordering on the edge of being too manic, and I don't. Does that make sense? It's right there at just the point where I'm entertained by the show, but if it was just a little less manic, maybe I'd probably enjoy it a lot more. But as it is right now, I don't know that they could take a little bit more time on everything. So I think that's a lot of the charm for a lot of people. So
all right. It definitely has a style of its own too, so that's kind of a plus for it, I guess. Not too sure about having Inferno Cop stuff involved. It got me a little afraid early on, but I'll stick with it.
But then again, maybe it's just because I adore Luluco. Maybe that's what it is.
I wasn't going to say it, but if you want to bring that up, sure. I'm like, yeah, just because I don't like TQ characters. This is TQ, but with a character that you think is cute, so you stick with it.
There you go. I like Midori.
Something to justify it for you. Yeah, 100. Let's move on to 100.
Okay.
Our harem show of the day of the
no, it's
the
a magical. It's a magical. It's stuck in a magical girl or a magical school.
Stuck in a magical girl. That sounds really wrong in ways. Anyways, 100. It's currently episode 4 that we're on right now. It's currently streaming on Crunchyroll. It takes place in a world where people use these things called hundreds, and the hundreds are basically their weapons to fight things, which are in this case savage. Which savage are, I'm loving the fact that I'm saying so many singular things when talking about multiple things. These savages are enemies that, I said savages. Savage are enemies who came down to Earth, come down like comets, I guess, and mankind has to fight them off. And like I said, they use these weapons called 100. And early on, we are introduced to our harem protagonist called Hayato. And Hayato, the harem protagonist, goes to a battleship university called Little Garden, where he is going to learn how to use 100 in order to actually fight these savage. And I think it was something to do with him going there because he had some kind of potential that they seen in him, and he wants to help his sister Karen get better, so that's why he's going. I think didn't they insinuate that?
Yeah.
Okay. Making sure that I'm not making things up. But when he arrives at this little, I like how the picture for a certain character is kind of your big huge this is totally inside baseball. I have an outline of characters listed, and the one thing that Chris hates so much about their choice in a certain character is completely undone with his picture.
Yeah, no.
But anyways, Hayato, when he arrives, immediately he has a fan club apparently, and that causes problems, and the student council president Claire ends up going to fire people or kick people out of the school for it, and Hayato has to duel her in the first episode to fix that, and ends up catching her attention and the attention of the higher ups in the school so that he is allowed into. It's pretty much like you're still in school, but you're also going to be dispatched and protect the area against these savages that they attack. Normally, if you're in the school, you're learning how to use your 100. And so it's kind of following Hayato as he meets all of his harem members, protects them, and then goes out and fights Savage. And it's got that formula of a harem, and I'm not saying that to be completely discarding of the show, because it's still doing it in a way that is enjoyable, and that's kind of rare for harems to do, is still have that formula but still be entertaining. So it's an entertaining harem. Just say that. The only thing that I'm really not caring too much about the show is the fights with the Savage, because they're always very blah. Like, it's always, here's a bad guy, he uses his final form, wins, and then they go home, and then Harem loves him for it.
To be fair, they're introducing something at the end of the last episode that looks like...
Ugh. You had to remind me.
I know. And
I had forgotten about it.
And in one hand, I seen it and I was like, oh crap, they're not doing that. But at the same time, to say that the savages are something that bugs me is
savage, Chris. They're called savage.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. The savage are bad. See, I was going to be snarky about this and go, dadgummit, we've got another trapped in a magical girl or magical school. I'm so stuck on magical girl.
You really want to get stuck in a magic? I'm waiting for a show to come out that is a stuck in a magical girl. It'd just be like they're in their blood vessels or something like that.
So I love this because when shows like this come up, I hear it every time. It's like I hear over and over again. We've done this show so many times. We're so tired of this show. And it's like, but here's the thing. This is actually kind of different. And that's the thing that I wish people would, if you don't like it, that's fine. I mean, if you watch the show and you really do, truly, honestly don't like it, that's fine. But don't automatically look at it and say, oh, it's trapped in a magical school. I said it the right way.
You had to point it out. Why did you point it out?
And so therefore, it's automatically bad. It's not. It does have some interesting things. And Andrew, I agree with Andrew on the idea of the savage battles were kind of bordering on just unlikable, but at the same time, after the end of this last episode, I walked away going, oh yay, the savages have people. I guess that's spoiler, so never mind.
This episode 4, it's okay. We're full on spoilers with the first 4 episodes, unless we think it's going to ruin the show for them.
And I went, man, now I get to see that, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I like that because of what they're going to probably do with it. But at the same time, the savages as something that I didn't care for, giving me something else that could possibly get outside of that. I'll give it a shot. I think that it was kind of that initial, when I seen it, I was like, oh no, I don't want that. And now I'm going, I think I can go with that for a bit. Like, I want to see where it goes with that.
Yeah. I agree with you, but I also disagree at the same time because I had, with the first episode, I immediately went, oh, okay, I'm not sure if I'll stick with this one just because, like we've mentioned before, we're kind of wanting the idea of backing down on some shows and alleviating some room to not watch every single show. But at the same time, when I went into the second and third episode, it was kind of a, okay, cool. I'm entertained by this. I love the whole scene that with a certain character just trying to get Hayato to kiss her and just choo. It was absolutely adorable, and I loved it. It was really cute. And I kind of like how they handled the idol character. I thought it was a little bit different. Yeah, it does that one thing where you're like, yeah, it's different, but it's also doing the same different thing that a lot of groups do to be different. And it's like, it's not that big of a deal. But at the same time, at the end of that 4th episode, I had an extreme fear from that whole idea because it's like I've seen that a lot also, and it never ends up being entertaining to me. It's like you're doing the one thing that I've seen so many times that I don't want you to do. Like that's the one thing I'm okay with you doing all these things again, but that's the one thing I don't want you to do.
The thing that I get out of this, and this is coming from in a respect of, because I really don't like the battle scenes in this show. I don't like the really, in all actuality, dude has superpowers, and I know everybody is saying that's the reason why it's so bad, but his superpowers come from the bad guys. I'm fine with that, but the battles themselves, I don't like the battles. I don't like it. But the characters, I adore the characters. I love Emil. I love Claire. I love Sakura. I love the little sister. I love Hayato, bordering on the edge of whether or not I like him. I'll tell.
He's a Dither character.
Yeah, he
does break off every now and then, but he's a Dither character.
Now, Charlotte, I like. That's the thing. I like the characters. I don't like the combat. So I'm in this boat of where do I stand on the show? I'm enjoying myself watching the interactions. That's really all I'm watching. I'm watching the show for.
I like how they kind of point out I think the one of the more interesting thing about the show that makes me kind of pull away from the other shows is I like how they handle the weapons that they use. Each one of these characters, or each one of these people that are able to use these 100, they manifest in a different way. And I love Emil's 100 because it's like she can have it basically manifest in different weapons. So she can use it a bow, she can make it a spear, she can make it a fencing sword. So she's constantly changing in battle. So I like her in battle. She's really interesting. I liked how they had with the idol, a certain character had 100 that wasn't necessarily combat usable. So it was I have this, you usually use it for combat, I'm going to use it for this other purpose because it's not necessarily a combat ability. So I like that they have showing that these things manifest in a different way, I guess is a good way of putting it. So it does have its own little flavor there that I think that's nice to have that deviation from it just being trapped in a magical school.
Well, and that's the thing. Really, in all actuality, like the 100 stuff, that just, to me, that just gives them something to do. Like I said, I like it because of the characters. I mean, if the action is what is working for you, then by all means, go for it. To me, the combat just wasn't really working. It just, my automatic reaction is to think of a couple of other shows where we have really praised it for its action, and I don't see that in this show. So,
yeah, we all have to have something besides the usual characters, Chris.
I love the characters, so
just watch those other shows again, Chris. Let's move on to ReZero.
Yes, please.
Okay. ReZero.
Where if I liked the characters up there, I adore these characters.
Okay. ReZero, starting life in another world, or ReZero Kara Hajimeru Isekai Sekatsu. I think region now or something. We're currently on episode 4, currently streaming on Crunchyroll, and this show is trapped in another world. My gosh, we're done. Terrible. Move on.
Right.
Oh wait, sorry. Go back. But anyways, right off the bat, we follow Subaru, who is at a convenience store. He's reading some magazines, gets something to buy. He buys something, and he's on his way out the door, and suddenly he is transported into what looks like some kind of fantasy world setting, and the streets are full of different types of people. There's humans, but there's also like elf people, and I didn't really see any elf people right off the bat. They have like dog people, lizard people. I mean, it's just a really off the wall, fantasy world type set. Not off the walls, but a typical fantasy setting. But then the weird thing is, he's like, okay, he immediately acknowledges the fact that he has just been transported into a fantasy world. So he's just kind of soaking up the idea that this is going to be a typical fantasy world summoning story, and he's going to be some great hero character, and he's going to change things, and he rushes off, but then kind of gets slammed in his face the reality of it, which is he is still him. And I think he ends up first running into a bunch of street thugs and gets beat up pretty quickly.
Got pretty beat up.
Meets a girl named Amelia, who ends up getting in that encounter as well, but is after a thief that has stolen an emblem that is very important to her. And Subaru, for some reason, decides that he's going to go help her find the amulet, and rushes up to try to find this character who you later find out her name is Felt, who has run off with this emblem, and tries to confront them just to get it back from them. But the interesting thing about this show, and it's kind of its more clever mechanic, if you want to call it that, is that at some point things go down badly, and Subaru dies. And what happens is it kind of reverts back to the point in which it wasn't the point in which he first arrived in the world. It was kind of this certain point that he was standing at this one location in front of this shopkeeper. And he's like, okay, why am I back here? Something really bad just happened. So he goes back to try to find Amelia. She doesn't know who he is. He tries to find the Felt girl again. They don't know who he is. And so you're following him as he's trying to figure out what just happened. He doesn't quite realize right off the bat that, I mean, of course, the viewer immediately is going, okay, he just had a time lapse. He went back in time to this certain point when he died. And that kind of becomes a thing for the show for the first 3 episodes that we watched, which had the first episode essentially was 2 episodes. So it was essentially a 40-minute long episode. So essentially 4 time gaps of time of him trying to figure this thing out. And I know the immediate response that a lot of people has given is, why did it take him so long to figure out what the hell is going on? It seemed pretty obvious what was happening. but yet it took him too long to get that grasp of what's going on with him, that when he dies, he goes back in time, kind of, sort of. I'm okay with it just because I thought it was a clever way of doing what they're doing. But at the same time, I'm fearful of what they're doing here because this show is going to core. And that is a lot of time to try to suss out something in a story. We're getting plenty of character development. I'm loving how they're introducing the characters. It is kind of the interesting aspect of doing the jump back because you are getting him to go after Felt directly. So you're meeting Felt. You're getting him going directly after Amelia. So you're getting two experiences with Amelia's that are completely opposite to each other. Two different sides of her, essentially. You're meeting like Reinhardt. He's doing this other way, so he runs into Reinhardt. He meets Rom. He's meeting each one of these characters in separate ways so that you're able to get to know the character. And it's interesting in the idea that essentially what you get to know him with and their connection with Subaru ends up getting broken in a way. I like that. I think it's a very fascinating way of going about I'm in a fantasy world. And I'm not saying that the gimmick is... I was afraid the gimmick or the mechanic of the return by death, as he calls it, I thought it was going to get overplayed. They got pretty close to overplaying it right off the bat. But at the same time, I think it's an interesting mechanic to view each one of these characters in different ways, if that makes any sense. And I like that since they didn't overplay that and they're kind of moving on with it, thankfully, I'm kind of interested to see what they do with it after this point.
What I was kind of afraid of was what was going to happen kind of after night one, which I do like how they handled that, which to me, me and Andrew, I think after, what was it? Episode 3, quote unquote, because like Andrew said, episode 1 is 2 episodes, and then episode 2 happened, and then episode 3. And I think that episode 3 was about the point where because we were still looking at one more episode, or was episode 2 the end of night 1?
3 was the end of night 1, pretty much, yeah. Because episode 4 is when he's at the mansion.
Okay, so I take that back. At any rate, I think the episode before we got out of this arc, I looked over at Andrew and I said, I'm fine with the way that they're doing the return thing, but I don't want them. I want them to be very careful when they actually try to continue this, because after night 1 really is where it's going to go into. Now you're going in farther down the line. How are you going to go back? And I like that because after night 1, effectively, he has a new quote unquote save point.
Checkpoint is a joke.
Whatever you want to call it. And I like that. I think that is fine. Now, are we going to go through the same process as episode 1 or night 1, which I don't have a problem with that, but at the same time, I want them to be very, very picky on what things they do, because like Andrew was saying, the first episode was really kind of messed up because what they kept going back and forth between the death and the end, or was it because what ends up happening is if you do this too much, you get into a point where he's trying to learn by death, and that's something that you don't really want to do.
It's beating it to death. Kind of thing.
And
literally.
I don't want to say that as a negative because it's not doing that. That's the point. But at the same time,
it was nice that he kind of pointed out at some point that like I don't want to die because it really freaking hurts.
Yeah. And I like those acknowledgments. I like the fact that we're actually looking at somebody who's actually taking the time to experience each one of these characters. I like how like Andrew was saying, I like how these things are really these stories are very well fleshed out. I adore the characters. I can name off every one of these characters, and I can sit here and go, this character has these traits that I love. This character has these traits that I love. And I could go down the entire list, even the male characters I like. So if that means
Reinhardt is epic.
Reinhardt is pretty. I liked Old Man Rom. I thought he was just awesome. So
what was great is even the the antagonist that you have for that first thing, and of course it's kind of continuing on, is it's this a character that I thought was absolutely terrifying. Like, you have this character shows up, and there's this moment of dread every time she shows up, and it's like, to be able to give me an antagonist that I dread seeing is a sign that they're doing something really good. Like, and it might be due in part in the idea that you have the reset happening, so you know that she can essentially kill these characters. But to have that character, when she shows up, to give me a sense of dread is something that I just don't see with many shows. And so that's really awesome. I mean, I like how in the end of episode 4, you even had another one of those moments where you're like, oh, that just happened when he was asleep, kind of thing. And I was like a moment of, wow, I can't believe they just did that, because that's just another moment of like dread or eeriness that they kind of throw in there. So they're doing an awesome job. It's not that they have that gimmick. They're using that gimmick well. Like I said, we did have fears in that first segment that it was like, I was afraid that they were going to kill this, but they did a good job of transitioning, and then now they're bringing it back, and they're doing it in a way that is portrayed well. They have great characters. They have really good animation. They have great style to it, and they're presenting it in a way that it does really well. They're doing the music cues right. They're doing the I don't know, just the way that it's being presented. It's doing it very well. It's excellent. And Ram and Rim are best girls. Even though I love Felt, I love Emil. I even like Puck. Okay,
but I would have a hard time between Felt and Beatrice. So
I haven't ended up Beatrice yet.
Beatrice hasn't been much, but she came in a big way in that.
Because I guess we had just as much Beatrice as Ram and Ram, but I love the whole exchange with Ram and Ram, where it's like, I do the cooking because she doesn't know how to cook. It's like, you must be good at cleaning. No, I'm better at her than cleaning too. So it's like, poor Ram.
Basically, what we're saying is the characters are absolutely wonderful in this show. I mean, I didn't get the same sense of dread. I got the evil that she was, but I also thought she was a very playful and intriguing character. The evil.
That's
character,
why she's dreadful. She wants her playful nature. She wants to see your insides spill out. What is good about that to you? Do you want me to introduce you to this girl?
Because of the way
You're not going to last very long.
I love the way she talks. She was fun.
Nothing you talk to her about is she going to ever care about.
Do I want to meet her? No.
The only way you're going to get her to talk.
That's why she's in the story and not in real life.
The only way you're going to get her to talk to you for a little bit is if you say, you could split my insides out and you could explain it to me, because she's probably going to want to talk about it. But then you're going to die. And you know you're not going to reset. Anyways, yeah, great show.
I think she got an honorary spot in our what is that? Good looking evil thread.
Yeah. But yeah, I think of the entire season, I think ReZero is one that is way up on my list of being most excited about. So I'm definitely excited to see where it goes from here. Anything else on that?
Nope.
All right. I'm waiting for a Ram and Ram figure of them together. That'd be great too, if you just want to get to work on that. Good Small Company or whatever. So the Asterisk Wars.
I want a Felt or a Beatrice.
A Felt or a Beatrice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Get a Puck too. Throw a Puck in there.
Puck would go with Emilia.
I think of any of the main characters come out, I'm kind of afraid of Ram and Ram, even though they're in kind of the intro that shows that they're part of his harem. I'm thinking that if anything, Felt are probably more predominant going forward than Rim and Ram. I think Rim and Ram will have their moment in this current issue he's dealing with, but I think Felt, is up there. I love Felt's character design, so I think if you want to fight one out of me, I'd probably say that Felt would probably be up there on my list. It's hard. This is a very difficult show to pick a best girl. Asterisk Wars 2. Let's move on to that one. Not going to be too much to talk about here because we are going in the second season. I don't want to really spoil it for people that are still in the first season or haven't watched the first season. But for those who don't know, the Asterisk War 2 or Gakusen Toshi Asterisk second season, which is currently on 4th episode 4, currently streaming on Crunchyroll, Funimation, Daisuki, and Hulu. It's everywhere. You can't miss it. You'll trip over it if you try to look for it. This one basically, a catastrophe happens in the world, and it kind of changes the world's balances. And following this, there is a new enterprise that takes its power in the world. There's a new type of humans that are actually being born after this whole thing happened, that they have these new physical skills that they called Gene Stilla. And you're following Ayato, who has just joined the Saido-kan Academy. And he's basically in this academy learning how to fight. He's joining what they call the Festa, which is this big battle that all people that have Gene Stilla or some kind of ability will join to fight and claim the glory or whatever. And I think in the first season, we pretty much followed Ayato and Ulysse, and they are paired together to go into this the Festa battle. You're kind of getting to know them getting to know each other, learning to rely on each other, and going into this battle. You're meeting his childhood friend Saya, and learning about her and her father, who makes weapons for her, and her desire for Yato. You met Kirin, who was the quick blade girl. You got a lot of development with Kirin and the issue that she has with her father and why she wants to win the Festa in order to help her father. And then you got a quick glimpse of kind of the negative powers, which is like Dirk, who seems to really want to take down Ayato. I think he just fears him getting in the way of him with the Festa or whatever. We got a quick glimpse of Xing Lao, who was this kind of, I think she's part of a Chinese branch or something like that, because everybody in their branch has Chinese names. She kind of was taking interest in Ayato, but you never really did get to see her. Well, now it just kind of seemed like that stuff is finally coming into play. I think my issue that I had with the first season was like, yeah, we got to know Ayato, we got to know Ulysse, they went into the battle. You really played up Saya and this other group that is downplaying her father and making weapons. And Ayato has this limit to him that's involved with his sister. So it's like there's all these things that you're kind of building, but then we didn't really do anything with it. And I knew that a second core was coming, so I'm hoping with the second core we get some conclusions. I'm not quite seeing that it's going to happen. I'm not sure if they're going to continue it on the third season. There's just too many things in play, and I think that's really the only issue I'm having so far. I enjoy the characters. I enjoy the action. I don't think it's very clever battles. I mean, a lot of the battles, I'm just kind of going, all right, let's keep beating down the main characters until they figure out their super duper power and then come back and win again. The battles aren't that interesting. I'm more interested in the characters. I'm more interested in Saya. I'm more interested in Kirin. And I think we're finally getting Saya and Kirin in action here soon. So hopefully they don't, beat their big bad and then it's kind of concluded. But I guess my point is I'm enjoying the show. I like the characters, but at the same time, it feels like they're trying to open up too many doors. And I'm not sure if they're going to have enough time to really close any of them. If that makes any sense.
No, I don't know that bothers me as much. I see where Andrew's going, and I understand what he's saying. I'm enjoying the characters, and I'm actually enjoying the action sequences, strangely enough. So go figure, take that for what it is. I don't have a lot more to say out of that than that, because really it is a continuation of the second season. So, and it's not like I feel like I'd be spoilery on anything. I do think it's kind of fun to see Ayato going down the route of exploring his past and how that affects him. I'm interested in seeing what's going on with Julius and her, what's going on in her life right now. I do like the Saya and Kirin stuff that's going on. So in a way, I see what Andrew's saying, but at the same time, I see 12 episodes to take care of a lot of the things that are opening up right now. And I think that's going to lead to the big close of the entire story. So
I guess that's the plus is that we've already spent time in the first core getting to know the characters, so we don't have to worry about spending the first 5 episodes of this core getting to know the characters because we've already established them, so we can just go right into things. So
right, I
guess that is kind of against my fears.
Now, if they randomly pipe up and throw certain characters into quote unquote the negative tournament, that's all I'm going to say, then I'd start to get worried.
And I can definitely see them going down that route, maybe just having one character, I wonder who it could be, running down that route and trying to figure out what they can do in there in order to get a resolve for what they're kind of opening. But yeah, I guess you kind of just shot down my only fear. I agree. I think it could end up becoming something good. I like the encounters with the characters. Again, I don't really care much for the battles, but it's a good show. In the end, it's a good show.
Yeah,
so.
It's an enjoyable show for me.
Not really doing anything bad. I'm going to go back to where we did our review was I want Shipping Fail Night Season 2, but I don't have it. Oh well. All right, moving forward, let's go on to The Lost Village, or Mayoiga.
Are we going to execute him?
I'm currently on episode 5.
No, you got one more episode on me.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if you were going to continue on it again. So
I did go ahead and watch the 4th episode. I guess I'll go ahead and try and watch the 5th episode, see if anything has changed. But right now, I am very ambivalent.
We'll get to that. Currently streaming on Crunchyroll. This story follows a band of 30 people who are on a bus going into basically it's a village called Nanakimura, and this village is being cited as being this utopian existence that these people can go to if they can only find it, because it seems like this location is almost like a myth. It's like this location that not many people know about. There's been people that have lived there before that have gone missing, several different things. And these 30 people had all met online. They all had their own handles. And they all basically got together to this idea of going to this location. And so you're following, not that they all knew each other online, it's just they all kind of communicate through this online network, because you'll find quickly that they don't really know each other. So they're all on this bus, they're going to try to find this location, and you're quickly, first episode really, here's all the characters, second episode is getting the location, going on into the location, then you're quickly realizing that everybody that's on this bus are a bunch of nut jobs. There are like society's rejects. They all have their own issues, and they all have this notion that if they go to this location, they can find their utopia, restart their lives. A lot of them are trying to just get away from their current life. You have like this couple who can't be together, and they're trying to elope to this location so they can be together. Stuff like that. And so when they arrive at this, they finally find this village, and they come there, and they're confirming that it is the village they're supposed to be in. They're quickly realizing that that's not really as peachy as they think it's going to be. Some of the group members want to leave immediately. Some want to handle things their own way. And I think that's really where we're getting into the review section, which if you want to say what your piece that you were wanting to say.
Oh, it's just pretty much that I'm very, very ambivalent of it right now. I don't like 99% of the characters. There's like 1 or 2 characters that kind of I'm slightly interested in, but outside of that, I absolutely despise hearing that people need to be executed every 5 seconds. And that is where this kind of the show is really kind of doing its thing. I get that these characters have weird things going on with them and all of that. It's just, they're not working for me. And that is really kind of the frustrating thing. I think that the village is kind of interesting, but without characters to enjoy along the way, it's not, I don't care if Execution Girl gets shot. I don't care if the bus driver gets his intestines flown across the ground. So that's where I stand on this show. I'm watching it ambivalently, and I want to see something kind of shape, but with as many characters as there is, unless they do a mass culling of a lot of characters, I don't see any of these characters getting much time to explain why they're as crazy as they are.
Yeah. I know probably the biggest issue that a lot of people have with the show is the characters. A lot of them are on the absolute sides. They're in this area and they're going too far. Like the one that everybody points out, of course, is going to be Love Pawn, who wants everybody executed. Every time something happens, she screams that they want that person executed, and it doesn't seem like anybody acknowledges the fact that she's constantly saying that she wants people to get executed. But I see it kind of different than a lot of people when I watch this show, and a lot of my enjoyment comes from just watching alone. So that's partly why I want Chris to kind of drop it, is because I enjoy it more when I sit alone watching it, because it's hitting the points that I want in the show. It's not that it's a great show. It's just that when I'm going into the show, I see it as like a first episode. Everybody was going, these characters are stupid. They're all acting stupid. It's like, that's because they are stupid. They are all nut jobs. They are a band of people who are societal rejects that are thinking that they can possibly live on their own without society's guidelines, without society's protection. And that's kind of what I like about it. I like that there's this group of stupid people going into this location to try to create their own utopia, and they have no clue how they're going to do that, but yet they do it anyways. And then they quickly realize, hey, this isn't going to work. And then they're trying to backtrack, but then the aspect of where they're at is kind of, I don't think it's too spoilery, but because this isn't within the first episodes, it's the fact that they're kind of there and they don't really have a choice. And you're throwing in this element of question between the characters. You're throwing in elements of, well, how would you handle a situation, or what do you deal with a character who has had a bad past before they got there when you're supposed to be there for this new life? Why would you judge somebody based on something that happened in the past life? Are they going to sit still and judge each person one by one to what they came from? Or are you going to accept that you're there now and that your actions there are what should be judged on? I kind of like that. I like having this group of people who are all crazy in a location trying to do something that they really have no power to do, realizing it's not going to work, and then being at each other. Do I think the show's great? No, I don't think it's great. I think I do have an issue with Love Pond. I think she's been overdone. I think that she was a nut job at first. Now she's just annoying. Judgeness is just crazy. He's a chuny in the middle of this group of people. That's really where the flavor is, really. If you're looking for a show that has a group of people that are just shouldn't be there, they're crazy, but at the same time, they're trying to make something exist, but they have no clue whatsoever what they're doing. That's where the fun is. It's the mystery of what are these people going to do when they have no tools, no knowledge to their use to make what utopia they wanted in the first place. It's ignorance trying to breed something with ignorance, and it's never going to work, and that's where the kind of the interesting aspect comes from. So that's why I'm enjoying it. Is everybody going to enjoy it? No, because most people are going to see those crazy characters, get turned off, and walk away. But if you like that element of eeriness, psychoticness, then you're probably going to find something to enjoy here. And it seems like they're doing something interesting with the show. They left something with, you'll know, with the end of episode 4, with them confronting something, and they're kind of doing something interesting with it in episode 5. They're
Which one?
Huh?
The cave or the other one?
The cave.
Okay.
The cave. I think the only issue that I really have with the show is, besides what I've already kind of mentioned, is the element of overplaying the psychotic nature of certain characters like Love Pond, or the loud nature of some of the more abrasive characters, is the fact that when there's too many characters in a room, it seems like they're constantly repeating themselves, or they're jumping back and forth between them in a way that it's like it almost feels like they're wasting time. But there is also an element that's with is the idea of, again, a group of people that don't really have any clue what they're doing, trying to have some kind of weird village council when nobody's really established who has power in the room. They're trying to use elements of what they left behind to make structure where they're at, and it's just not going to work because they left that behind to create their utopia. It's not going to work in any way. So there is an element even there that I kind of find interesting. So I'm just more interested in seeing what this group of ignorant people can even manage to scrounge together even though it's probably going to turn the realm of people disappearing left and right, I'm hoping something interesting comes of it in the end. Even beyond that, there's the element of the mystery of what supernatural, I would say, elements are surrounding them that I kind of want to know more about. I want to know the supernatural element has an interesting twist to it, and I want to see what they end up doing with it. So
it's one of those things that I don't blame you. The story wise, I think that it does have something interesting there. It's just my frustration with the characters is overriding my enjoyment of the story. So take that for what it is.
You can't have Psycho Girl that says people must be executed unless it's a very moe show. It has to be
that would
cute,
be very
fun,
interesting.
Moe show. Your yandere characters do that a lot, and it's okay there. But not in a serious show. They cannot have psycho faces in serious shows.
Give me one way how this show is serious. This is so off the wall.
The first episode, I was just laughing along with it, and then I'm kind of like, okay, I kind of can see something in here. So
it's really hard. I wish I could say, because I do like one or two characters, but some of the other characters just are so grating to me.
Let me choose your characters. Masaki, Lion, Koharun, maybe Mai.
Pretty much.
I named them all. They're all girls. They're all cutesy.
Yanta's kind of cute.
And they're all not too screwed up. That's the characters that cute character, I'm attached.
I didn't say I was attached. Misaki would probably be about the only one that if you were to randomly pop up and say,
I like Mai.
If you were to randomly pipe up, Mai would be the same thing. If you were to randomly pop up and say that those two characters were dead, I would be like, this show is dead to me. Forget it.
They die in episode 5, so you don't have to watch it anymore. There you go.
Lies.
I got him to stop watching the show.
I'm interested in the cave and the other thing.
No, you brought up before the idea that Andrew doesn't want to watch the show with you. It's more of a fact that when I watched the show and you were in there with me. No, I'm just saying, my point is that I'm not saying that I want him away from it. It's just the idea that I focus more on a show that he absolutely detests. It was the same thing with Schwarzmark. I enjoy that show more because I could focus on the show. I didn't have to worry constantly, oh, he's probably hating right now. Oh, he's probably hating right now. When you're not in that element, I can enjoy it more. That's the point.
The funny thing is, I do the exact same thing when it's something that's more, I guess, moe, if you want to call it that. I'm sitting here going, oh crap, I'm losing Andrew. Oh crap. Like I didn't realize it did like this before.
We'll get into that later. But no, it's even with those shows, it's not like I detest it. You're like, I'm angry at this show because she's saying execute again. And it's like, I understand. I know it's annoying, but it's like 2 sentences in the entire episode. Let it go. It gets even better with Execute Girl in the episode 5 too, by the way.
Is she executing?
She wants to torture
seconds?
People.
She wants to start torturing.
People.
Right on.
She's got the clippers out. Wants to peel fingernails off. It's going to Higurashi
I'm gonna
territories.
love episode 5, ain't I?
No, you're not. You're not gonna watch it anymore because you hate the show. Stop watching shows you hate. You don't like it, don't watch it. It's that simple.
It might change at the end.
It's not gonna change. It's still gonna be psychotic. Unless it gets, everybody dies except for your Moe Blob Girl and Lion, and that's the ending. And you'll be like, great ending.
It was the best ending
All the
ever.
psycho people are dead. I'm good. Lion has 6 cents. 3 leaves, 3 colors. Our next show. Let's talk about some moe. We got out of the darkness. Let's get away from execution, love pawn. Let's get into 3 loves, 3 leaves, 3 colors. Or Sansha Sanyo, which is currently on episode 3 that we've watched. It's currently on Funimation for streaming. And it follows, essentially early on, you meet Yoko, who is, you can instantly realize that she's got that tone to her voice. She has that dialect that kind of gives a hint that she's like a princess or from a rich family. And she's all alone. She's eating breadcrumbs. And that seems kind of weird. But she quickly runs into Teru and Futaba, who are friends, and they instantly become a pair of 3 friends, essentially.
Not the breadcrumbs, the heels. Kind of like the ends It's like somebody went through and cut off all the edges off of a bread loaf.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for clarifying that. Would hate for somebody to attack us on that one.
Because it wasn't breadcrumbs?
Yeah, it wasn't.
I'm
Thank you. But anyways, so you're kind of basically following... I would say the main focus of the show that's been so far in the first 3 episodes is really Yoko, and if she is... her struggles with the idea that, are these my friends? How can I be a good friend? Trying to learn how to be a regular school kid in a setting with friends and knowing how to react to them is really what I've kind of seen so far. And you're kind of meeting her past butler, her past maid, and interacting with them kind of thing. So it is kind of one of those really cute, sweet comedies, slice of life-ish. I would be very, very hesitant to say slice of life-ish type of show with these kind of interaction with these characters. And I've really enjoyed this show. I when I came into the season, I was like, and Happy is going to be my fluff, fun, good feels Wakaba Girl kind of show. And then 3 Leaves popped up onto Funimation where we were going, what's 3 Leaves, 3 Colors? And we started watching, and I'm like, this is my Wakaba Girl right here. I am loving these characters. I love their interactions. I think the only thing that I'm meh on is Futaba. I think she's a little bit too off-putting sometimes, but overall, I've just really enjoyed all the characters so far. He's looking around like he's trying to figure out why Futaba's off.
Too ganky, I don't think. I mean,
oh yeah, she's like crazy airhead ganky sometimes, but I love her character design, and she's usually that type of character I like. It's just
maybe I'm just
sometimes she's too much.
I've seen more stuff from Teru and Yoko, so
yeah, I love Teru and her sister and their kind of weird balance.
It's one of those shows that I absolutely adore this show. So please let's get that out of the way right away. I love the it kind of almost goes into this realm of, because of the circumstances involving Yoko, which I don't think it's really kind of spoilery because technically Andrew pretty much laid it out by saying the bread heals. She was a former rich girl, and now she's not a rich girl.
Well, I kind of said former butler and former maid. And learning about normal.
So, yeah, going into exploring.
Sorry, that was an episode 2 spoiler.
It really is, and it's kind of one of those things that's fun too, but you kind of get it really quickly by why is the rich girl? Quickly. Yeah, why is the rich girl eating bread heels? It's kind of obvious. But yeah, she's got this really weird cast of characters that is working for her, and I almost want to just see more of these weird staff that is involving her family fortunes. So I think it's got plenty of potential for really well written comedy, and I think that it's hitting it just perfectly.
It's kind of funny that I point out Wakaba Girls, and essentially Wakaba Girl has the same concept. It was a rich girl in a regular school, and people realizing, wow, she is really a rich girl. But of course, Wakaba Girl had a lot of other character interactions too. So good stuff. I like it. But again, Wakaba Girl was really kind of focused around those girls. It wasn't really like with this one where it's Yoko and the maid and the butler and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, good stuff. Definitely recommend it. It's a very sweet little show. And I like how even with a show like that where it can be really goofy and silly, you still have these like really heartwarming moments where she's realizing like, oh, these are really my friends kind of thing. Yeah. It's just really cute kind of thing.
Or the actual staff actually caring about her enough that even though they're technically not her working for her, they actually care, you know?
No, nothing was normal about Shino. She was interested in the idea. She was overcome with joy, the idea of, ooh, so I'm a former maid now employing the one that was my master.
She starts
shaking like she's got a seizure happening. She's weird. She's great.
She wanted to be in a room with the 2 cute young girls so that she could gather up their youth energy.
Please don't leave. I'm eating my food. I would love you to join me. Yeah. She's weird. She's crazy.
I like her. I got such a kick out of her. She was just excellent. so well done. What I was saying was like her taking the time to bring some food, or Mitsugo bringing some food, because they don't want to see her eating bread heels with mayonnaise on it.
Here's a bunch of stuff that's nearly expired. Please take it. I was thinking that it's going to be insulting, and she's overjoyed by it. She's like, I'm not sure what I would do on all this, though. It's great. It's great. And it's great that it could easily go down the route of her being this, she was a rich girl, and thus she thinks everything is below her, but she's a good rich girl. She's not a bad rich girl kind of
thing. I like that she's more humble. I mean, she gives off that kind of bordering on the edge of rich girl air, but she is very kind of humble and just taking what she can get and being grateful for it, instead of being haughty and going, oh, but I deserve this type thing. So
big sigh. Endride's next.
There's a cute character in there.
Endride, currently streaming on Funimation, is currently on episode 4 that we've watched. He's actually going for 2 cores, which is partly why I'm sighing. And this show follows... It follows It follows a fashionable designer pants-wearing boy named Shun, who is very energetic and happy about rocks. And I'm not making a joke reference of the other show that we talked about last season. I am saying he likes rocks. Not Rocks, the guy that we made up from Nor 9. He likes stones. Not Rock's dad. He likes pebbles.
I don't know. Emilio could be technically like the new Rock.
He's like the girl from Cerberus. He likes pebbles. He's collecting them. Anyways, Shun is in the regular modern world. He's going to the store to look at the latest rocks this place has got. Then at some point, his father was supposed to be at a birthday celebration that his mother kind of put together for him. Doesn't show up, so Shun gets kind of upset and runs to Dad's work because he's always caught up in his research that he's doing in his work. Shun goes to his dad's work, goes into his office, and there's this stone that is inside this kind of glass casing.
And the natural thing to do is open it
glass
up, case,
reach right in, because there's no reason why it could possibly be encapsulated in this gigantic capsule. It might be dangerous in some way, may have some time toxics coming out of it, but we gotta touch it. Shun touches it, and it warps him in what ends up being kind of this world that is within the Earth's crust, like. It's a hollow theory kind of thing where the world is on this hollow Earth surface, and underneath it there is this other world underneath there, and he's in that kingdom now. He immediately is in a prison, not in a cell, but he's in a prison, and he looks over and there's this guy named Emilio. He's in one of the cells, which you kind of found out earlier, where Emilio is the prince of this kingdom. But the king, Delzane, is actually a guy who killed Emilio's father and took the throne, and he discovered it and wants to kill Delzane.
At this point, I don't know what the heck's going on as far as that's concerned.
I'm diving in here. Come on, it's a great story. But anyways,
they kind of implied it for like the longest time, and then suddenly now we're looking at it as not.
And Shun and Emilio going on it. Anyways, some guards show up, and for some reason, this big sword appears out of Shun's chest, and he grabs it and swings it, and it explodes, and Emilio gets free, and they run out of the castle together. So it's in this kind of inner Earth crust setting of a world. It's kind of fantasy-ish. Certain people have the ability to create these weapons from themselves, or weird creatures in Alicia's case. And this guy Emilio really wants to kill his dad, quote unquote, the king. Shun wants to get back to the Earth's surface where his home is, and the only way to do that is go to this Babel thing, that's this connection point, and Delzane the king wants to use that to invade the surface, and the entire time Emilio and Shun are at each other's throats, nagging at each other, and that's where Andrew goes, nope, not doing 25 episodes of this.
Is it 25 episodes?
It's a 2-core.
Oh, no.
Why do you think I ran away from it so quickly? And then we went back to it, and it didn't change. So, yeah. That's my frustration with the show. I think it had a great setup of a world. I like the idea of this surface world and this underworld, and the idea of trying to create this connection that would invade it. But the characters...
There is no way Alicia
This is my The Lost Village. I hate these characters. And it's not that they should be weird or whatever. It's the fact that they're constantly bickering about the same things over and over again. Where are you taking me? I want to go home. No, you're stupid. No, you're stupid. No, it's like that over and over again. It's like these two kids that cannot stop bickering at each other.
I almost want to time it and see how long those two have spent arguing in the last 4 episodes.
Just look at the episode timestamps for each episode and add it up. That's because they've been at each other the entire time. Every now and then Alicia shows up and she goes, yay, and then it goes back to it.
Yeah, and they don't have this is what's frustrating, because they don't have the time to spend making Alicia look good. They make Shun and Emilio look good, and they don't even have the time to spend on the scientist guy, which I don't even remember the scientist guy's name.
And his fantastic disguise where it makes him look like a big jolly guy and then he puts this wig on that's completely different color than his beard, and nobody realizes that. Yeah, that guy.
This is the frustrating thing about the show, because it really all boils down to your 2 main characters. I don't like them. I can't stand them. Shun constantly, like we were joking about earlier, nay, 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 nay.
If you don't know what the nay we're talking about is, he's essentially constantly nagging them, hey, where are we going? Hey, and he's constantly saying that. He's saying, hey, what's this? What, hey. It's like it grates on the nerves everywhere.
And then Emilio, being Mr. Prince guy, doesn't... He's so arrogant and just bossy and just not enjoyable at all. I don't even understand why the scientist guy and Alicia have any interest in what he's doing. It's like, oh well, yeah, good luck with you. Good luck with you're trying to take over the kingdom. He goes to this other place and to gather up some...
Well, I know why the doctor cares to help Emilio, and that's because he worked with the Babel thing, and he doesn't want the king to use it, so he sabotaged it, and he might see that Emilio is the only way to stop it from happening. So I kind of see that. I kind of see the doctor's reasoning. The doctor's the only character I can see any reasoning behind.
I was trying to convince myself to dump the show, okay?
I just gave you a reason. I gave you the Moe doctor.
12 episodes with Alicia I probably could have handled. 24 episodes with Alicia is not saving this show, sorry.
She's maybe in like 2 scenes so far.
She's that character that blends with the background. She is very non-existent. They don't want to have anything to do. It's like you could tell this writer does not like girls. I got a kick out of it. I'm sitting here pointing out the fact that they take the time to make the extra effort to make Shun and Emilio look good, but they will not bother with Alicia. It's so annoying. I almost want to watch it just because of that.
I tweeted at some point, I'm like, I totally forgot about this until Chris has to point it out. Shun's pants are on backwards. Why is his pants on backwards? He's got his back pockets in the front, and it looks weird.
That's almost as bad as Sonico and her pockets sticking out of... I don't know why pockets stand out to me, but they do.
I would have probably never realized it. I can point out CG all the time, but Chris, pockets. Pockets is his thing. Andrew CG,
Chris's pockets.
We're just going to rename Chris Pockets. All right, Pockets, let's move on. Let's go to Onigiri, which is a show that is running. We were on episode 3 so far. Currently streaming exclusively, not really exclusively, I can't say that, but the only place we have it is the Anime Network, which is a new one for us to kind of point out. This show basically is a animated series out of the game Onigiri, which is a game where players get 8 NPCs that fight with them, and they go around this world and take out things. But in this show, and they like to point out, the guy has no voice. Male characters have no voices, and suddenly these 8 characters get blasted and spread throughout the world, and you're basically in each of these little shorts. They're all really short episodes, like what, 3 or 4 minute long?
Yeah.
You're kind of following different pairings or different single characters as they go and try to do something wherever they kind of left off at. And that's kind of the gist of it. I could say straight out, if you should watch a show or not, the simple thing is, have you ever played an MMO, and would you like a show that makes fun of MMOs? Because I think I think when the show was first kind of pointed out as being on the Anime Network, it was like one of those, it's kind of out of the way, shouldn't even bother kind of thing. And then at some point, I think I was making the outline, or I was making the simulcast, our simulcast page, which has all of our, here's where to get stuff, whatever, if you can find it on our main site. And I went to get the link for Onigiri on the Anime Network, and I was like, I'll watch the first episode. And I was watching through it, and I'm kind of like, okay, this is pretty colorful for a short that's kind of out of nowhere that nobody's talking about. And then it has like these funny little MMO jokes thrown in there, and then it has this final moment of the character essentially gets suspended, and I was laughing, and then I kind of just left it as that. And then, like, not even, I don't know if it was just, I think it was just the next day.
Or, well, maybe it was the next day.
Because I did it at night, I think. And yeah, so it was the next day. You kind of came forward and said, you got to kind of check out that Onigiri. It's kind of funny. I was like, yeah, I watched it, and I kind of got I got a nice little laugh out of it. So definitely, yeah, it seems like a good show so far. It's not breaking anything, not breaking grounds or anything. It's just here are some cute characters. They fight things every now and then, and it just makes a lot of jokes to video games in general and MMOs. So if that's something you're looking for,
it's the jokes are hit and miss. Some of them I've rolled laughing. And some of them not so much. But it works for me. It's entertaining, and it's a short, so can't go wrong there.
Give it a shot, kind of thing.
It's one of those things that I remember there was a time where we despised shorts, and I got a kick out of the fact that lately shorts have been working.
Yeah. It's just quick bursts, and if they can pull off that quick burst right, and I think this one's kind of pulling it off. So, and it's got a Heterochromia Neko girl in it, so that's got extra points from Andrew. So there you go. Moving forward, let's go into Tanaka-kun is always listless. We're on episode 3 so far of this one. It's currently streaming on Crunchyroll and the Anime Network. And it kind of follows Tanaka, I won't say Tanaka-kun. Tanaka, who is, as the title kind of puts it, he's listless. He is always lazy. He wants to figure out the best way possible to use as much energy as possible. He's like low blood pressure to the point of he should be at a hospital kind of character. And he's always kind of joined with his friend Ota, who is kind of the guy that kind of helps him get around, kind of takes care of him, and that's kind of the fun in that. And yeah, I kind of joked about it earlier with the idea of this is similar to like Sakamoto or Tonari no Seki-kun, where it's like, I was really afraid early on of, is this show? Because I think the first episode mostly was Tanaka going, if I lean on my arm this way when I want to sleep, I'll wake up and have a huge cramp in my wrist. And so I got to figure out a best way of setting my head. And it's like, yeah, that's not doing anything for me. I don't care for this is the best logic or this is the best strategy to be lazy. It wasn't until like episode 2 and going forward when they started introducing the characters around them. Like Mayano is adorable. I even liked Ota, so don't get me wrong there. I think Ota is perfect in combination with Tanaka. I got a lot of enjoyment out of the surrounding characters with Mayano and Eshijin. And I'm thinking going forward that's going to be the deal, because it just seems like there's a really huge cast and they all seem like they're really cute little characters. So I have a lot of promise for the show, in the idea is as long as they keep it away from Tanaka, I will really, really enjoy this show.
This show really shines in all the characters surrounding Tanaka. So I can't wait to see as these more characters are introduced. I'm already seeing 3 characters that have not been introduced on your outline here. But I absolutely adore Miyano. I love her thing with Ichizan. I love Ota. He's just the I don't want to say the opposite of Tanaka, but he is the perfect complement to Tanaka. So, and having the kind of Ichizan Miyano thing that is kind of like beside those two, of kind of this. Ichizan is exactly what Ota is to Tanaka as Miyano is to Ichizan, and it works so perfectly. And I just this show. I'd be hard pressed to see if it can find anything to do wrong. If it plays on its strengths, like Andrew was saying, where it's about the characters around Tanaka. If it goes into too much of him being listless, yeah, it'll lose its steam very quickly.
Because that was really what kind of I had a struggle with Umaru-chan, was Umaru-chan did that. It did here is this girl who is just a lazy, gluttonous girl when she's at home, and I was wanting them to do not that. I was like, okay, that's great, but let's look at these characters, and it kept going back to her and her. This is how I eat food and watch this show. It's like, that's not interesting to me. I want the characters and how they react to that more than just that alone. And again, if Sakamoto, Tanaka-kun can do something similar to that reaction of what the character's doing, more than just let's show what that character is over and over and over and over again in different ways, you're going to have a successful show for me. Anyway, so yeah. So I guess Umaru-chan is my example of why it didn't work. So keep away from that.
Thumbs up.
And you did the thumbs up, and I'm like, nobody knows you're thumbs up. So yeah, let's go to Bungou Stray Dogs. It's our next show, currently streaming on Crunchyroll. It's on episode 4 so far that we've watched so far. And it follows early on Nakajima, and Nakajima is kind of a reject from pretty much every orphanage possible. It seems like he just got kicked out onto the street, and he's nearly starving. But thankfully, a guy trying to drown himself in the river comes by, and he saves that guy. This guy's named Daizai. Daizai basically feeds him because he got saved him, and he's like, okay, I'll feed you. And during the time that he is feeding him, and you meet his Daizai's sidekick, Kunikita, you find out that there are currently investigating this spotting of a tiger in the area. And Nakajima kind of freaks out because he kind of knows something about that tiger, and they quickly realize that he knows something about the tiger, so they get him to help try to find and capture this tiger. And what that kind of sets up is Nakajima ends up joining this group of people who have their own agency that does detective work for different things. And so Nakajima is joined with Daizai, who really seems to like pain and suicide and whatnot. And then there's Kunikita. And you quickly find out that each of these people actually have some kind of weird ability to them. I think Kunikita kind of points out that he kind of manifests things, like weapons and whatnot. They kind of what I've been liking about the show so far, and so that's why I'm not going too much into it, is that it doesn't seem like they're throwing out those abilities too quickly, and I kind of like that. I like that mystery of we don't quite know what everybody's capable of so far. They're kind of slowly revealing this is what this person can do, this is what this person's capable of. And what comes out of that is you have these characters in this agency, and then moving out from there is the issues that they're kind of solving. And we really haven't gotten too far enough to know exactly what direction they're going with the show, and I'll get more into that later. But they quickly are running into an issue where one of the biggest groups, the Port Mafia, is this Port Mafia group, actually wants to capture Nakajima. Somebody's put a big, huge bounty on Nakajima, and the Port Mafia people want to get that bounty. So they essentially this agency has brought in this Nakajima, but have quickly made enemies with one of the most fearsome groups in the area. Because the Port Mafia have this member, Akutagawa, who has an incredible ability that is very, very dangerous. So what I kind of mentioned earlier that I'll get around to is the only issue I've had with this show so far is that it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. It's like it seems like they're constantly chasing their tail, they're running in place, however you want to put it. But I seen it especially with episode 4, and it was like this idea of, yeah, you've set up a couple things, but it feels like where we're at with the beginning of the episode is exactly how we were with the last of the episode. The only difference is that Nakajima has had some kind of realization that that's where he needs to be. But overall, so far, the show
which you technically had that in episode 3 as well. So, I mean,
true. Yeah. And I guess it's my only real issue. I like the characters. I like the abilities they have. I like the style to it. There's some elements to it that I'm probably pretty sure that Chris will probably get into. But I'm just struggling with the idea that every now and then it does feel like I'm going, what are we doing right now? I don't like this. This conversation isn't that interesting. The humor sometimes misses. Get with what you're doing so far, or get with what you're doing already, because I'm feeling like you're running in place kind of thing. So it has promise, but I have a lot of question to it.
Yeah, the first episode was introduction to characters. Second episode was getting Nakajima into the group. Third episode was pretty much the group protecting Nakajima. Then fourth episode was Nakajima protecting the group. And so it's like, I can agree with Andrew in the aspect of you just effectively repeated episode 3. Yes, technically it was Nakajima trying to protect the group instead of the group, but at any rate, the group still protected Nakajima in the end. So take that for what it is. The frustrating thing I have with this is, yeah, the story is kind of interesting. The characters are vaguely interesting. I went through the first, 2 episodes. I just wasn't really sold on anything. The third episode showed me one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best fight scenes that I've seen in a while. It just,
until I watched Kabaneri.
Yeah, pretty much. It was such a beautiful scene. It did a lot of really cool things all at one time. I got really excited, and then the fourth episode, I even hung with it for a good chunk of the fourth episode. But by the end of the episode, I loved the way Andrew kind of pointed it out. They kept building up these characters and building them up. And it was like, and then in the end, it was just,
you didn't see any of
it. Tossed them out the window. It's like, okay, what was the point in that? I can't get, you can't show me a really, really awesome fight. And then the next episode, even if you build it up and then make me hold over until the next episode, fine. But don't give me, oh, he runs back in and everybody's already beat. No, it doesn't work like that. That's a cop-out. I'm sorry.
But yeah, at any rate, I have a lot of things in it that I like about it, so I'm hoping that it'll turn things around. Just I hope it gets out of that little kind of rut that it's in of kind of running in place. So we'll see, I guess. Kagewani 2. Season 2 of Kagewani's here.
Mm-hmm.
And Andrew was super excited about this because I really, really liked Season 1. I think we kind of pointed out it being like a gem of a short. It did a lot of things just great. It did the suspense right and everything. If you don't know what Kagewani is, essentially is about there's these supernatural beasts around the world, and this guy Bamba is trying to research them and find out where they're coming from. You can end up finding more about his past and why he's so obsessed with these beasts, and specifically this Kagewani. And we ended the first season with this kind of big, huge thing that happens with Bamba. And going into season 2 is kind of like continuing on with that whole thing. So that's essentially your setup. There's not going to be too much to talk about here, but the only problem that really is that I want to hit on is that I'm fearful of what they're doing with season 2, because I really, really loved the first season. It was very episodic. It did right in doing these really quick little stories that I got so invested in, even though they were so short. And now it seems like they've transitioned to this idea of, here is this long-running story. So we're moving away from these short burst stories of different individuals in different locations, and we're going into, let's follow Banba as he's dealing with this said issue. And it's not hitting it very well with me. So I have a lot of fear with the second season. I'm hoping they kind of turn it around, but so far I'm going, please go back to what you were doing so perfectly, kind of thing. So.
Yeah, me and Andrew were talking about this. What was it? Yesterday we watched it.
Yeah,
and he had kind of pointed this out, and it got me to thinking, because in a way I agree, because I like what they're doing here, because it's extending the story, it's opening up the doors, and it's saying, okay, now it's time to start exploring these things. But I agree with Andrew. And this is kind of you were pointing out, it's the death parade thing. It's when you start.
I told him, this is my death parade, Chris. I want my death parade.
When you start lifting up the curtains and showing the story behind the setting, you get into one of two problems. The real strength of this show in the first season was these really tight, compact stories that are just, this is what's happening. It's very weird. You build up a quick little story of this character. You get this neat, compact, tension-filled, exciting, quote unquote, if you want to call it that, little story, and then you get a payoff real quick, easy, nice to digest, and everything like that. But now we've got something that's going on, like episode to episode, it's trying to rope everything in and bring all these characters in that technically you have kind of an idea of who they are, but it's not really where the strength of the show is.
It's going into pupa territory of the idea that there's just not enough time to care about what's happening in this long-running show, or this longer-running story where you're constantly cutting off and waiting a week before you see what comes up next.
Yeah, because when it comes down to it, like Banba, I barely have enough to know who he is. I know who he is. I know why he's got this thing, what's going on with him, but I don't have enough time with him to care what's going on with him. And Kimura, I have even less interest in. As far as I'm concerned, he's technically the bad,
And they're kind of trying to make him into a gray area right now.
Yeah, and that's really what it is. And
not too interested in it, though.
Of all the characters, Yaguru technically is, if you want to call her that, the good guy of the story, and yet technically they're painting her as the bad guy, because of the way that they have portrayed the characters to me right now. And that's what's really frustrating. It's like, this is not where the strength of the show is, and that's really what it comes down to. I like what's going on because I'm getting some stuff. I've already been sold on what the world is so far. So yeah, I agree with Andrew, and yet in a way I'm interested in what they're revealing. So I'm ambivalent right now, is I guess the best I can say.
All right. Let's move forward to Ushio and Tora. We're going to the second season of this one. There's not going to be too much to talk about here because it is a second season, but we can give our ideas of where we think it's going and if we like it or not. But again, that's Ushio to Tora, second season. We're currently on episode 5 of it. It's streaming on Crunchyroll. For those who don't know, basically Ushio and Tora follows a boy named Ushio, and he is living at a shrine with his grandfather. At some point, he finds his way down into a basement of a shed at his grandpa's shrine, and ends up finding this demon named Tora, this big bestial demon, and it's impaled by a spear into the wall of this underground area of the shed. And the thing basically asks him to remove the spear from him, and he'll eat him. And he's like, I'm not going to do that because you said you're going to eat me. And then he comes to find out that the spirit that is kind of coming, or this aura that is coming off of Tora has been luring, different spirits that are coming in. They might harm Ushio's friends, Inoue and Asako. So it ends up becoming a thing of Ushio needs Tora's help, and Tora is always kept at bay and not harming anybody because the spear that was impaling Tora is actually this beast spear, which has a lot of power to take down any kind of yokai or demon or whatever. All the demons basically fear this spear. Transitioning from there, you're basically following this two duo, a very unlikely duo of Ushio and Tora, as they go around trying to, for the most part for the first season, was trying to find Ushio's mother. You end up finding about Hakumen no Mono, who was this incredibly powerful demon from way back in the day that is currently sealed, and both demons and humans are fearful of this thing. And so you're going on his adventures. He's uncovering all these things. So going in the second season, again, we're not going to really get too much into it just because it is going way past the first season. It goes into spoilers. If you have not watched the first season already, we highly recommended it when we reviewed it. We both loved it, and we're really excited about going into the second season. So far with the second season, I like what they're doing because they've actually explained a lot of things about Tora that have been very, very fascinating. I didn't think they were ever going to really get into Tora, and they did something with him in a way that was very, very interesting. I like what they're doing with him.
I absolutely loved that. It was one of the coolest things that I don't want to say it was from left field, but at the same time it kind of was. It was really a surprise, and I liked it. It was one of those things that was like I didn't feel like it was kind of a cheesy way out. Does that make sense?
When I told Chris immediately, it was like, I never really expected they were ever going to touch Tor, and I thought if they ever did, it would be something of like, yeah, he was this evil demon thing, and at some point he found a heart or something, and that was going to be it. But no, they did something really fascinating with him as a whole.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was, because when something that they had introduced in the beginning of this season was like, this I don't want to say it, but because it is technically spoilery, and it's one of those things that you want to get to the second season to see, but there was something that was showing up, and we were like, and it was kind of one of those things that was kind of irritating because it took away from the, I don't want to say the uniqueness, but what made Tora special. And I was like, this is really kind of frustrating to have this, but it didn't take me out of the show. And then when they used that to explain Tora, it was like, okay, I can get on board this, and I love it. It was excellent.
It was funny because you were explaining that, and I thought you were going to talk about something else, and it's like, there was two big things that they kind of jumped into right off the bat with the second season. In both cases, I was going, oh no, they're not doing that, are they? Oh no, they're not doing that, are they? And in both cases, they flipped it in a way that I was like, okay, that was cool. I like that. I like what you're doing there. They're developing the relationships even further than I thought they would even do with, like, the first season. I liked a lot of the characters and as we joked, the harem that Ushio is putting together. And even with the second season, they're even developing that stuff even more. And they've had probably, I say like probably about 4 or 5 situations that have already happened, easily one per episode, of these just extremely heartfelt, amazing scenes between characters that they're going through. And I have been, I can't say enough that I've enjoyed the series immensely, and it just keeps topping it even more.
Well, the last episode is probably the one episode, and that would be episode 5, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Episode 5 was probably it was both my favorite episode of the show and my most hated episode of the show. Because it had two things going on. It had 2 lines of things going on in the show. One was kind of the pinnacle of a relationship which was such a beautiful story. I loved it. I was literally in tears. It was such a heartfelt, warm scene that was going on. And then there was this kind of weird battle that I did not accept at all. It did not work for me in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, this show does have misses for me, at least. I don't know if it doesn't for you, but I
had a struggle with probably the first half of that battle, but at the end it made sense to me. So
I'm fine with it as a gimmick for this show. It's like, okay, I'm fine, whatever. But it didn't work for me. But I don't fault the show. The show is wonderful.
Yeah, it was
doing everything that it does very well.
Yeah. So yeah, if you haven't got it already, definitely. If you have not watched the first season, go watch it, and just know that the second season is going to make it even better. And it sucks that the second season's only 12 episodes, but I'm hoping that this show just ends on a really great note, because it's been a great show throughout the entire thing. So I'm excited to see more of it. Our next show we're going to get into is Big Order, which we're currently on the episode 3 mark, and it's currently streaming on Crunchyroll. And Big Order essentially takes place in kind of a modern setting, and for some reason there is this unknown fairy being thing called Daisy, who, I don't know if they specifically said that only she, but essentially people are being selected for some reason to have their wish granted. And these people are then known as, they call it Order? Yeah, they're all Order. And these people, Order, can essentially have their wish granted, and then they become an Order. And the wish is dependent on whatever, or their power then after the word is based off of whatever wish they make. And at some point, this world is thrown into a complete catastrophe. The entire face of the world is changed after somebody makes a certain wish. And, we quickly find out there's this main character named Eiji, and Eiji, it is believed early on by the viewer that Eiji was the one that might have made this particular wish, but it's kind of uncertain at the beginning. And you quickly meet his sister named Senna, who is very deathly ill. She doesn't have much time left, and he's trying to take care of her while trying to keep a secret of whatever wish that he had asked for. And at some point, a new transfer student shows up at his school named Rin, and Rin ends up running into him at his house, or his apartment, claims that she left her keys inside of her apartment, needed to use a phone. And during this kind of moment, she reveals that she's actually knows that he made the wish that caused this catastrophe, cost him her mother and father, and she is there to kill him. And that then moves on to, I guess that's pretty much where I can leave it. But you're essentially following, I guess I can actually get into the major plot point, which is at some point this group confronts Eiji and says, we want to take over the world, and we can help your sister, but you're going to have to take over the world as the lead. We're going to make you the person that is going to take over the world. We're going to show the entire world that you are, in fact, the one that created this catastrophe with your wish, and you don't really have really much of a choice because you want to help your sister, kind of thing. And so you're following Eiji as he's with this group of people trying to take over the world as being all Order users, and it changed the world to Order now controls, kind of thing. You end up finding out that Eiji, his wish is actually kind of in the element of domain. He's able to control things, and so whenever he uses his ability, it like manifests this thing that then shoots nails at things and changes things by command. He's able to command things to stop, bullets to stop, people to do things that they wouldn't normally do. You meet, you already met Rin. Rin is, her particular ability is restoration, and that kind of came off of what happened in the past. So that's kind of the interesting element of the show, is that each one of these people have a particular ability that is kind of tied with whatever wish they made to this spirit thing, Daisy, and how they can use it to seek world domination. So I think that's kind of the interesting thing that I find from this show is this element of, it's kind of got that Code Geass feel to it of this person trying to take over the world, and it's not quite a... You're essentially watching the antagonist of a world, the bad guy who has taken over the world. And it's not necessarily that he's an evil person, it's just that he is doing what you think is going to be what an antagonist would do to take over the world. And normally you would be seeing this from the other side and somebody wanting to stop him from doing that. And that's really where the interesting element comes from it that I am kind of drawn to. And it also doesn't really hold too much back. So keep that in mind. The show gets kind of dark. There's a lot of cases of executions, people trying to stop him by executing people. The world's kind of screwed up. They kind of quickly established that this isn't a modern setting because the world's changed after the catastrophe that happened, and certain parties are willing to do things that, yeah, in the previous civilization would not be proper, but in this certain case, we're going to do everything we can to kind of stop you thing. And it gets really, really dark in that element. So keep that in mind coming into it. I don't really have anything particularly in this show that I don't like so far, and there's a lot of elements in it that I'm interested to see what they do. The only thing that I would say that I'm fearful of the show is that they've already established abilities, and I'm afraid of how those will play out in order versus order combat, because so far that I've seen, it's really either one-sided or certain things have to be put into play to really, because the main character has really been already established as having an ability that would be able to be anything. But then yet there's going to be these things where it goes, oh, well, it doesn't work on this because we can't have him be that overpowered.
Because reasons.
And then there's elements where he does use his ability, which is supposedly like absolute. Like he says, you can't do this. It uses it on that person, and yet they still do that particular thing. The biggest joke early on is that he makes somebody not able to harm him, but yet on a regular basis, she's harming him physically, like grabbing him. I think one point he gets hit in a very delicate location on a man's body, and you're going, wait, she's not supposed to be able to harm him, so why does she just do that?
I think the rule is that she's not allowed to kill him.
No, he said, kill or harm me and my sister. Specifically said that.
Okay. I'm guessing you went back and checked.
Well, I can go back and check again, but I studied it the first time and knew that that's what it was in. So it is a thing of you cannot harm us, and yet she is constantly harming him, so it doesn't make any sense. So all I can really chop it up as maybe it's just mistranslation. I don't know, but I've seen specifically harm, and yet that's harming's happening. And even at that, it's like, well, so he can sit there and harm him until he's about to die, and then it stops? That doesn't make any sense. So that's my only struggle is like, okay, you're establishing this absolute, but yet you're breaking that absolute. So it doesn't make any sense. So, but it's really crafty. I thought there was even this moment in this last episode that something happened that me and Chris were like, whoa, I can't believe they just did that. Like, okay. It was really, really weird world, and it's constantly surprising me in the element. So it's exciting for me.
Yeah. The thing with the show is some of the characters I'm not totally on board with, but at the same time, the characters are interesting enough to keep me going through. And I actually like Eiji. I think that he is unique enough that he just kind of breaks out of the molds of what a lot of characters get lost in their own kind of world. At least main characters, they kind of get lost in their own world, and I think that he stands out enough. I like his ability is very interesting to me. Some of the things that happen around him, I think that and I think that this is kind of something that is mainly the writer as the writer has a tendency to get so exaggerated in his what do you want to say, quirks, the abilities. The abilities really what it comes down to. that he gets lost in which rules overwrite which rules. And I think that's kind of the thing where I think a lot of people would probably lose it with this show.
And so people don't know, it's basically the same writer as the Future Diaries, so it's got that same element there.
Right. I was kind of trying to... Yeah.
Each person had these notebooks, and each one had a different weirdness to them, a different quirk to them.
Right. And I kind of wanted to avoid bringing up Future Diaries because I hear a lot of people making comparisons to Future Diaries, and I want to...
Well, early on, I thought Rin was like spitting image of Yuna, and I'm glad that they kind of moved away from that.
Yeah,
She still looks like her.
Yeah, the scene where they introduce the entire cast of the order that's trying to bring AG up to be king of the world, the first thing I thought of was, okay, there's the entire cast of, and not the cast of Future Diaries, but I was like, you have just given me 1.5 million art styles in one scene, so
yeah.
I even think I made the joke at Andrew. Well, there you go, real quick.
Well, I always hate the room full of 50 million characters that all look unique, and they happen to. Okay, we got the entire cast. I'm not going to remember any of these characters.
And I agree. I think out of that entire cast, 2 characters stood out to me, and then a third one that later on I was like, okay, now I understand what she is, and it's like. I like the show because the characters are interesting, and yet at the same time, I think that the world is interesting. So it's working for me, and I can't wait to see where they go with it.
All right. Our next one we have is Rin-Ne. You're on episode 3 of, what is this? The third season? Second season? Okay.
I think technically I ever actually done a review, because I think
no, because you hit it late after we did the reviews.
Right. So technically count this as a review and as the introduction to the next season. At first, I think that we kind of dropped off on this one because it didn't come, we seen where it was good, but at the same time, it was like we had too much going on and it just didn't grab us as much as we wanted it to.
And the everything cost money joke got a little old.
Yeah. After I watched the next couple of episodes, I started to see the charm that I found in a lot of the other shows that this mangaka writes. It's got this charm of just the characters are just warm in general, and you naturally just feel it, like wanting to continue the story. And I think that's really where the show kind of shines, is this kind of feel of, while they're not doing anything really crazy significant, and yeah, the things costing too much gets tossed out there every once in a while. The world that this mangaka is writing or is creating is very well crafted. It's very interesting. As they introduce more characters, it's very fun. I do love a lot of the things. One of the cool things that I do like the most about this is the main love interest couple, if you want to call them that, is not, they're not combative with each other. It's just kind of like, oh, hey, I actually have feelings for this character, and the other character is going, oh, hey, I actually have feelings for this character, but they're not really sure where that goes from there. And I think that it's cute in that way. It's not overtly, hey, you're with so-and-so, therefore, because they technically have never gotten past, I have feelings for that person. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's where it's really one of the things that shines about this the most. It's not like the Kyoko Inuyasha thing where you are with another girl, so therefore I'm gonna beat the crap out of you. It's just they're a sweet love interest that is just where it is. It's just a love interest. And I like that. And as they're adding more characters, they're not adding 1.5 million characters all in one episode. So it's working for the way it is. And I like that. And in this next season, it's just continuing the same. It's introducing a couple of characters here and there, and it's going, this is why they're important and what's significant there. So it's doing really well. I love it. I love the art style, and I like the characters.
All right. Next one we have is Kiznaiver. Kiznaiver is on episode 3 right so far. We're on Crunchyroll's where it's streaming. They got exclusive rights to that one because I think they're on the committee or something like that with Trigger. But yeah, this one kind of follows Katsuhira right off the bat. You end up finding that this guy does not have any kind of sense of pain, so he's often bullied because of it. People beat the crap out of him. He doesn't feel it. He's often bullied for money and whatnot. And at some point, he is confronted by a Noriko. And Noriko kind of points out why people bully him and has a particular plan in mind for him, pushes him down some stairs. He ends up waking up in this facility along with several other people, including his friend, childhood friend Chidori, this guy who tried to help him from the bullies, Hajime, some schoolmates, Nico, who's kind of like a very energetic girl who claims that she can see fairies, this kind of pretty boyish guy named Sukihito, and another classmate, Honoka, who is kind of more of a silent type. But this Noriko kind of points out to all of them that they are now connected and they are part of this project called Kiznaiver. And essentially what it is it's Kiznaiver is an attempt to, I guess, bring peace about the world by allowing everybody to share pain. And these people are now in this test for Kiznaiver, so they all are connected in a way that they can each feel each other's pain. And they establish that really quickly by, if one of them gets hurt, everybody equally gets that pain distributed upon them, so that the pain, I guess, is not as much, but they all feel the pain of each other. And they are each given kind of missions. Early on, you have this mission where they are all having to divulge some kind of information that is very private about themselves that they don't want to tell anybody. And so they're all kind of forced to do this because Katsuhira is kind of locked away separate from them all, and every time they give a wrong answer, he is tased, so everybody gets that pain given to them. And it kind of moves on from there. They have a mission to go find the final member of their team, which is this Yoshiharu, and them going throughout the task to try to find that for that mission. But yeah, that's really all we've gotten so far. I was almost wanting to watch another episode before we did a first impression, but we never got around to it. But essentially, so far has been these characters and them kind of dealing with the fact that they all share each other pain. They'll be at school and suddenly one of them, they all get racked with pain. So they're trying to figure out, well, who isn't with us? They call up that person and say, are you, one person, are you okay? Because we all got hurt with pain. So obviously somebody got hurt some way. And that's kind of the interesting aspect so far in the show, is just this idea of how these people would react to, wow, I suddenly had this excruciating pain in my back. One of us got hurt and got hurt really bad because that hurt. And the idea of the person who got the pain having residual remaining pain from it, but everybody else kind of loses that pain quickly. So what they can do with that is really the question. I will say that the main reason why I wanted to watch the episode 4 was because at the end of episode 3, they introduced a character that was going to possibly ruin this show for me, especially because I just first impression was really bad, and I am very afraid of what they're going to do with that character, and they haven't really so far established a goal in mind. So far, it really is, these are all Kiznaivers, they share each other's pain, but what are we going to do with that kind of thing? So that's really the question that I have so far. I think the style of it's great. It looks great. The character so far, I'm liking it. I don't think I really have a character I don't like except for the new one they've just introduced. So far, all of them are either I'm okay with or I absolutely love. So it's got that going for it so far. I don't really have too many beefs with it besides the final character shown. The rest of it I've thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, I would generally agree with most everything. I've enjoyed pretty much every character. I am a little bit ambivalent of the same character that Andrew's mentioning. I think that character kind of puts a wrench into the what they're trying to accomplish with this show. So like I said, I'm ambivalent about the character. I'm not turned off of him yet because he could turn out to be a very good character. But like Andrew was saying, we don't know enough about that character. They just introduced him. So, but yeah, I'm the character. This is the show, like I was talking about earlier, where the characters have absolutely sold the story to me. So if this show was just the story, I probably would not be on board with it. I wouldn't want anything to do with this, but because the characters are very unique and fun and enjoyable, that sold this story to me. So I'm excited about it. I want to see where it goes.
I promise everybody eventually he'll be over that.
What's that?
You're way hyper stuck on that whole thing about characters and stories, and people question you on it. It's going to be okay. We'll get over it. Let's get into one that's about characters and worlds clashing. Twin Star Exorcist, which, or Sosei no Onmyoji, currently on episode 4 of that. It's currently streaming on Crunchyroll. This takes place in a modern setting, but the weird thing about this particular setting is that there's this parallel realm called the Magano, and in this Monago realm, there is these demons that will affect the real world, and people who are known as exorcists will thus go to this parallel world when there's issues there, exorcise that demon, whatever that is affecting the world, and possibly save many, many lives. And we follow early on Rakuro, and Rakuro is special in the idea that he was once an exorcist when he was just before the show kind of starts, but something really bad happened, and he thus does not want to have anything to do with being an exorcist or exorcist in general. But he still lives at a location that has many people who are exorcists that go out and do their work. And at some point, he meets a girl named Benio who has just kind of entered the location. He helps her find a particular location, and then kind of find out Rakuro and Benio are then summoned to a location where kind of most of the heads of the exorcists are located at, and the main head, Arima, basically makes Rakuro and Benio fight each other to establish who is as they call it, the Star Exorcist. And as they're battling, Arima stops them and just basically points out, essentially, we have the twin exorcists, and it is going to be the offspring of these two people. So Rakuro and Benio are then pretty much said, you guys need to get together, get married, and have a child, and that child will be the one that brings peace about the world. The Star Exorcist that will everything.
They're the twin Star Exorcists. They will give birth to Miko.
The Star Exorcist. I thought I said the Star Exorcist.
They are the twin star.
They are the twin star. They're going to make the Star Exorcist.
They kept referring to it as Miko, which is priest, but okay, that's fine. That's what they were going to give birth to.
So essentially, you're now left with two people that want to have nothing to do with each other. They've had a really bad first impression of each other. Benio is stuck on the idea that her entire life is devoted to being an exorcist, and she has trained her entire life to be this exorcist. And Rakuro, who has an incredible power, but he doesn't use it because something bad happened in the past, and he just doesn't want to be an exorcist altogether. So you're following them as that quirk is in play. People are put in danger, and Rakuro is forced to have to help, but at the same time, he doesn't want to have anything to do with it. Benio doesn't understand why somebody with so much power would not want to use it, and such and such. I am entirely mixed with the show because I like the concept. It does some cool things with the combat sequences, but at the same time, not caring too much for the characters. I think Rakuro is kind of a little obnoxious. His character design is terrible. He's got the shark teeth thing going on, which I don't care for at all. It has an interesting concept there, but I think it's just really one of those ones where you're like, everything that happens just feels predictable. I know where they're going. I know what the final goal is probably going to be. Then there's, of course, the issue that I don't think this will probably have a conclusion to it whatsoever. So I'm not quite entirely sure what I'm getting myself into and what to expect it to even address in what it's kind of created. So I'm very mixed on it. I think it does some cool things here and there. There's also the issue with every time the combat sequences come up, they have... I guess the best way to explain it is it's like a anime-style fighting game where every time somebody does like an over super duper ability, they do like it kind of, the game kind of pauses and the face kind of, the cutout 2D face appears on the screen and goes, ah, and it swings past and then something happens. It's like that kind of animation. And it's like, it does it over and over again, which kind of sucks, but it's got a cool song. And the other issue is that everything that kind of involves Rakuro, if he gets involved with the fight, it's always his super ability shows up. He punches the thing once and it dies. It's kind of like the One Punch Man issue in a action show, which doesn't work because one is doing comedy, one is just, this is his ability and that's really all he has. So what are you going to do with that?
Yeah, I think
I'm mixed.
I think that I'm kind of mixed as well, but I'm a little bit more warmer. But at the same time, my issues are generally the same as Andrew's, where it's pretty much centered around Rokuro, which that it's frustrating because him as the quote unquote main, we're getting into the same problem that we had with Haruchika, where he's the main character, you can't get away from him. I don't like his artwork style. I don't like him as a character. So therefore it's kind of ruining the rest of the show, but the rest of the show is fine. I think that the storyline is interesting. I love 99% of all the other characters. So it's one of those frustrating things. It's like when it all comes down, I mean, even the fights, I want to see a really, really beautiful fight. And most of the time the fights are pretty good. I kind of have the same problem with Endra is when they do that title, I don't think they've done it as much as they did in the first episode. It was like every 5 seconds during a fight, it was like boom, 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 boom. The super ability has been used. Okay, I really don't care. Boom, 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 boom. Another super ability has been used. I don't really care. Stop telling me about the stupid
problem is that
ability.
Most of the combat sequences are like, all the effort is put into this really cool sequence where Benio like does her magical girl transformation that I would probably joke about it, where she puts up these talismans and then pulls her weapons through them. And then the rest of it really is either jump and slice and the enemy's dead, or light twinkles and then everything is dead. Like, she's so fast, all you seen was this one little line of light and everything is dead. I mean, there's no real choreography that's happening, and that's really my issue.
Yeah, I see that. There's this kind of weird balance between it's one of those things where it's like, whenever Andrew points out these things, it's like, yeah, I see those. I can say, yeah, that's a cheap way out, but there's also those kind of the fluid dances that they do in some situations where I think those are really cool. But yeah, then at some point they get to the point where, okay, we've got too many characters or too many bad guys on the screen, so we've got to get rid of them all. Benio does super power up and does the little quick swish, 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 and then a bunch of stars pop up on the screen, and boom, they all blow up. So it's this weird balance between, I guess in a way that doesn't turn me off as much, but at the same time, Rokuro, he like Andrew was saying, yeah, his big thing is, okay, big bad guy comes in, nobody else can do anything to him. Benio's been beating on this thing for 20 minutes, but it's not going nowhere. So he goes up and boom, one punch and it's gone. So yeah, that is frustrating. I want to see a really, really great battle with these two characters just blowing it out of the water as the twin star Exorcists. So take that for what it is. It's very mixed on my side and apparently on Andrew's side. So,
and apparently Ryogo is a mix between Anakin Skywalker and Dragon and Goku or something.
Gohan.
All right, let's move forward to And Happy. This currently is streaming on Crunchyroll. We're on episode 4 of it. This one takes place in the Tin no Mifune Academy, where it seems like a lot of students are all kind of brought into the same class, and the odd similarity that seems to be between them, according to the teacher, is that they all have something wrong with them. They need to, and this class is about seeking happiness.
Yeah.
Something like that. They all have bad karma or something wrong with them, and this is to find happiness in this one classroom.
It's just misfortune.
Yeah. And I guess the main kind of focus is on Hanako. She just has a lot of bad luck. And there's, of course, the other girls all kind of have their issue. Like Botan is a very fragile girl. Hibiki gets lost really easily. Rin is like the focus of every single animal in the entire, 5-block radius. And you're kind of just following them as this teacher puts them through different tasks that is supposed to make them find happiness. So, as I kind of alluded to earlier, this is kind of the show that I was hoping would be my joy, happy, fun show. But unfortunately, I think the issue that I have with the show so far is that they established what each goofy thing is with each of the girls, and that has been the joke for the last 4 episodes, and it seems to be the only joke that this show really wants to give. So it's, oh, Hibari found that sign again and she's blushing. Oh, Botan has injured herself for the 50th time for this episode. Oh, Hibiki is tsundere and gets lost really easy, but she likes Rin, and Rin shows her where to go. And oh, by the way, Rin has a bunch of animals that are on her again. So, I mean, it was cute for the first episode, and then it's like, okay, same jokes, same jokes, same jokes, same jokes. And that's kind of where I'm left on the show, unfortunately.
I'm actually really enjoying it. The only thing that I if I was to say that I don't like is, strangely enough, Botan. All I do every time she cracks a bone is like I cringe, and I'm going, poor baby, stop hurting yourself. Just put yourself in a bubble and protect yourself from the entire world. But other than that, I absolutely adore. I love Hanako and her just outlook of fighting through the world as it sucks, and she is just finding the good thing in every little bad thing that's happening. She's looking for the flower that happens after the storm, and I absolutely adore that. I love that the mom has got 10 sets of clothes ready for her, because she knows that even though she's left early, she's going to come home 10 times and she's going to change. I love all this stuff. These little tidbits of nice, beautiful, warm things that are on the other side of all these bad things that these girls are dealing with. And I love the concept of the class being centered around these girls finding that happiness, even though they have just a bunch of misfortune. So I'm totally on board with this show. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next.
All right. Next we have is Shonen Maid. This is another one that we're kind of behind on just because it's a little bit delayed. I think it was one of the later ones that kind of popped up. But this one follows Chihiro, who had just lost his mother, and afterwards ends up finding being confronted by Madoka, who was her brother or his uncle. Was his uncle?
Yeah, it's his uncle.
And his uncle is like really rich and has this big old huge mansion, and it kind of bothers Chihiro, the idea that his uncle was this rich, but yet they never did anything to help his mother. But that was kind of the wish that she had, was not to be a part of that, so to speak. But Madoka ends up taking Chihiro into the mansion, wants to give him a place to stay, but Chihiro wants to kind of follow that same mentality as his mother, and doesn't want to have this stuff given to him. So he decides to, okay, I'll work because it ends up turning out Chihiro really likes cleaning things and taking care of houses. And Madoka has this big mansion that is filthy. And so it kind of comes to the conclusion of, well, I'll work here and then I'll have a place to stay here. So I'll be working for what I get. And so Madoka's like, that's fine with me. That'll work. So you're kind of just following Chihiro, who is now a maid, even though he's a boy, of Madoka's mansion, and you're meeting the people that are, around Madoka and, of course, Chihiro. And I was really surprised with this show. I think coming into it, I thought it was just going to be here's a goofy comedy about a guy wearing a maid outfit and cleaning things and the shenanigans that comes around that. But the cool thing that kind of came out of it was that at the end of each episode, I was like, wait, that was like really, really heartwarming what just happened there. Like, where did that come from? So it has this very strong sense of like a slice of life element, drama element to it. Very light drama, but a slice of life element to it in the midst of it being this very kind of goofy, shonen being a maid storyline, so to speak.
Yeah, I honestly, I mean, I made the joke about I think it could be fun as a silly little ecchi, but I didn't get any of that. I actually found that it was it even with the idea of, because it kind of lends itself to being that awkward, weird kind of, are you sure that this is okay type thing? And instead it kind of turned into a more, like Andrew was saying, this warm kind of true heart, solid. You work for what you earn, and I think that is truly where this show is shining in a lot of cases. It didn't go down the path of being awkward comedy. It went down the path of comedy of, I don't understand why you live in a pigsty, and then you realize, okay, it's not that he wants to live in a pigsty. He's a busy guy and he doesn't have time to clean up, and he's a little bit forgetful. He's not a neat Nick, and I like how all that works. I loved the way that they introduced Miyako, that she wasn't just some kind of airhead that is. She had this weird I have to be around Madoka, but then after a few minutes they turned it into something that was really kind of special, and I really like the way that the writing is doing this story. So
yeah, very surprising. That's really what the thing is. One that's really surprising as well is Ace Attorney, yes, or Gyakuten Saiban Sono Shijitsu Iga Ari. Is that a object?
Igiari.
Yeah. We're on episode 4. It's currently streaming on Crunchyroll, and it follows Naruhodo, or as some many might know as Phoenix Wright, as he is becoming a defense attorney, and he goes through his first case as we kind of follow in the first episode, and yeah, that's it. He's a defense attorney, and he's dealing with each case. I think the first case we had was his a friend of his back when he was in school, who has been charged for murder. You're going forward, and somebody close to Naruhodo has been murdered, and he's trying to defend the person that was wrongly accused for it, and court cases ensue, kind of thing. The interesting thing in our first impression is that I've never touched any of the Ace Attorney or Phoenix Wright stuff, and Chris has, so I'm coming in completely blind. And so far, it's one of those things of like, I'm glad I never touched the game, because I see the charm in it. I think the characters are really kind of off the wall and kind of, way. This is essentially almost exactly like The Lost Village, but in a court, because everybody's like either crazy one side or the other, and why is nobody finding this particular way of doing this particular thing crazy? So I understand that it is the charm of it. It is silly. It's supposed to be funny. So just don't worry about it. But at the same time, you're dealing with like murder cases. It's trying to be serious about something. Somebody's dead. Somebody's future is in stake here. And then, well, this person said that they seen you. Well, that means you're obviously guilty. We're gonna make a guilty. And it's like, wait. This guy has never been involved with the case before. Why is suddenly this person now in trial because he called you up and said that he's seen it? I mean, are we not going to investigate this a little bit? So I have the struggle in this one of, why is this going the direction that it's going? Because it doesn't make any sense, and it's not funny enough to be a comedy for me, kind of thing. And It also doesn't look really good, so it looks kind of bad. But yeah, I'm not really get much for the show, and I it's great that the people that love the series, the games, are getting an adaptation, and I hope you're enjoying it. But I don't think this was for me, kind of thing.
This is probably my show that I am the most frustrated with, because I have such a hard time in how I want to react to this. I love the story, the characters, and what I'm being presented with. Although I understand why they're doing these things, and this is probably the biggest frustration I have is. The last episode was probably was it the last episode or the episode before? Actually, this episode did it too. They have this scene where they're kind of doing a cross-examination, and I seen what they were trying to do. It was a thing where when you're playing the game, you get kind of frustrated and you're trying to cross-examine every little bit of what the character is saying. And they were kind of cutting it. And it was like, that's what they were doing. And they were trying to portray that kind of frustration of, I can't find this one little piece of evidence that I need to link together with this item so that I can prove that this is the person that did this crime. And they captured that. However, the problem is the way that they are portraying it is not being translated in the same way that in the game it works. In the show, it's not, and that is where it's really frustrating. As a person who really loves these games, I think that if you're that frustration that you're having, I think that there's that level of suspension of disbelief of. Yeah, I get that, but that's not what is good about this game. The game is about these characters and their weird reactions and their weird craziness. But yeah, I do understand that. And the way that they're portraying it is really frustrating because it's not capturing what is truly the thing that is this show or this game, and that in a way that is really frustrating because it's dark humor, but Phoenix Wright is a serious guy. Yeah, he when something goes wrong, he's a very exaggerated reaction, but it's not a funny reaction. It is a, oh my gosh, you just did that. I don't know what to do next, and then he gets frustrated, and then he's sweating like crazy. When Umio, the kind of cat girl, she's all cute and funny at first, but yeah, they're in a court case, and then when it kind of switches on her, she gets freaking crazy, and she starts going, and you're
execute everybody.
Yeah, something like that, and it's like, it's not that the situation is funny, it's. She is a contrast of what she was a second ago. She was all cute and funny, and now suddenly she's psycho and crazy. I'm not cute and funny. She's cute and sunny, and she winks at the judge and oh, that's cute, but you know that deep down she's not that sweet of a character when all is said and done. And then you get her to the point where she's kind of trapped in a corner and she's pointing fingers at anybody but herself, and her little heart turns upside down. It's the exaggeration. It's not that it's funny, it's that it's exaggerated. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I'm not trying to cover up the fact that yeah, it's a murder, but there is that seriousness in the game, and it's not being portrayed in the show. Yeah, it's a funny game, but it's funny in a dark humor way. It's funny because it's exaggerated, not because it is funny. It's exaggerated. Does that make sense?
Yep.
But yeah, I'm very frustrated with this portrayal because it doesn't look that great. It's frustrating. I cannot recommend it as a way to see what this game is, because I think it greatly diminishes what is good about this game. I don't think it's portraying it well at all.
All right. Flying Witch is our next one. Currently on episode 3 of it. It's currently streaming on Crunchyroll. And this one takes place in Aomori, Japan. It follows Makoto, who has just moved there. She's just turned 15 years old, and usually kind of with this idea of a witch, they go out to do their training away from their family, which seems to be not really what her parents want her to do, because it seems like it's an old tradition. They don't want her to do it. But she moves over to here to stay with Kei and his sister Chinatsu and his parents. And so you're kind of following Makoto, who arrived at this town. It's out in the boonies. It's a different place than she's normally used to. And she is, like I said, training to be a witch in this location. She goes to school there, meets some of the people that are currently living there, and kind of flips at some point in the idea that it's really more of people around her learning these kind of quirks that are with witches, because while witches are existent in this world, it's not really a commonly known thing. It's like Kei and his family know Makoto and witches because, you know, they know each other, but at the same time, people around them don't even know that they exist. I think at some point they kind of joke. Makoto jokes with Nao, one of Kei's friends, that she's kind of divulging all this information about being a witch, and at some point says, wow, I never knew really all this stuff existed. And it's like, oh, well, we don't really tell people outside of our families, so, oh, well, and this is like that dread of, what are you going to kind of tell me about this, but then you have to kill me kind of joke kind of thing. But yeah, it's really a slow show. It's not in a bad way. It's just kind of a sit down. I know that people kind of joke the idea of it's one of those healing shows. It's one of those shows where you kind of just sit down, watch it, get lost in this kind of country setting, follow people as they're kind of experimenting with, oh, well, here's how to do a spell, or here's this harbinger spring that comes to visit a witch to get, you know, this remedy that he needs. And it's kind of that element of, here is a down-to-earth, grounded setting, but then there's this element of, here's this witch that's there, and the kind of the supernatural that comes with that. And that's really the cool element of it. It's a really cool show. It's fun. It's got great characters. I'm liking what they're doing with it so far. I think the one enjoyment I get the most out of it is having this young girl, which is Kei's sister, Chinatsu, and how she is the one person of that family that doesn't know about witches, so she's constantly learning things as you're learning them, and these random weird people will show up at the house, and she's always the one that ends up having to greet him at first, and she's always like terrified. It's just really sweet. I like the interactions. I like the characters. It's very sit down, relax, and just kind of absorb it kind of show, and I've liked it so far for that.
Yeah, I don't think that you could have a much more perfect show as it is right now. It's hitting all the comedy at the right points. It lingers when it needs to linger.
That mandrake.
The mandrake, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that thing was crazy.
So creepy. Yet it just hit it just right.
Just screams.
Yeah.
And you could hear it from distance.
I love the comedic timing. I love the characters and how they kind of are portraying themselves. Like Andrew was saying, Chinatsu, and how she is, for some reason, the one that kind of bumps into this situation that is just so off the wall, because Makoto brings all of that with her, and I love that stuff. Now as a kind of a friend, kind of sponge character for Makoto, that just kind of, you have both sides of it. Kei, that is just kind of like, I've been dealing with this my entire life, this is normal, and now who is this the same as Chinatsu, kind of learning this for you. She's your eyes into this weird world that is not what you're used to, and I like how all those characters kind of play off of each other.
But yeah, just an excellent show. I'm glad that it's not. I was thinking it was going to be Kiki's Delivery Service, the TV series, which would be great, but at the same time, I'm loving that it is its own thing, and it's hitting all the marks perfectly. So definitely one of my most excited shows for the season. So Next one we have is High School Fleet or High Fury, currently on episode 3. It is streaming on Crunchyroll, Funimation, and Daisuke. This is a show that is taking place in a kind of in our time frame, but what happened 100 years prior was that these tectonic plates shifted and pretty much most of all Tokyo pretty much submerged. And civilization has started creating docks and port stations to kind of replace that. And in that sense, that since there's more water mass to deal with, they have started to create more marine cities and more. Oh my gosh, I can't think of the name of military on the seas.
Navy.
Navy, yes. They increased their navy. And what kind of flourished from this was this idea of these blue mermaids, or these girls that aspire to be these females that command these ships. And so there's these schools that they can go to. And these two childhood friends, Mike and Mocha, they decide they're going to go together and they aspire to it. And they get into the school. And they both are given different ships to command. Mike joins this one fleet, and essentially, when they first join to the academy, they are all assigned a role on a ship. They are given a ship that they're going to command, and so all the students, alone without instructors, then have to control and man these ships completely, all student-based. And so you're, of course, following Mike, being the main character. She is given command of a ship. And she's sent out on the sea. Oh my gosh, sent out on the sea with her fleet, and they go out to their first mission, and they're supposed to reach a rendezvous point. And where the show kind of shifts from there, because I totally thought this was going to be, here's a joke again, K-On! with battleships, is that it gets kind of semi-dark. Like at some point, they're supposed to reach a rendezvous point. And things kind of take a weird shift, and they are then the world has deemed them as being traitors, and they are actively sought out and trying to be taken down. And the entire time I'm going, what the heck is going on here? It's getting really serious. These girls are like criminals of the state, and we're trying to figure out why that is the case. But they're constantly trying to survive without trying to fight back, like being pacifist while fleeing. And we haven't really gotten to the point where we know exactly full on what's happening, but it's kind of interesting in the element. It's got cute characters. It's got some pretty good comedy. And for the most part, some really great little battleship maneuvers, and the battles that they actually have are surprisingly good. So actually, it's more girls on Panzer with boats. Is my joke.
Did you hear that supposedly I was looking this up real quick, but supposedly it's written by the same person who did Girls on Panzer.
Fits. Yes, it fits. But yeah, it's been good so far. I'm enjoying it. I don't think it's doing anything extremely exciting, but it's definitely keeping my interest for the most part.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. See where I went there, huh? Not intentional. No, I really enjoy the characters. I think that it's an interesting thing, and Neko approves.
That's a good
because
thing.
Neko jumped on the boat with the girls. So I'm kind of jealous of Neko. He just jumped right on there. I was like, why can't I do that?
Gets to sit on certain girls' heads and stuff.
No, I really love it. I think the characters are fun and interesting, and the story is just keeping it light enough and yet still keeping a serious tone when it needs to. I think it's balancing it well. So I love it. I think it's doing great.
So far, I really like Rin. Rin's really cute because she's I'm timid and scared about everything, but yet I have to turn the ship every 2 seconds. I think my only fear is really that there's like a really huge cast, and I don't think they're really going to touch on many of them, but I think it has that same element of Girls on Panzer where I don't think it'll matter too much, and they play with them enough that they're still good characters.
Reiko Yoshida is the writer, and they've done Arya, Blood Plus, wow. Digimon Adventure.
I think we went through all that on the preview.
Girls in Panzer. There it is.
Yeah. Let's go on to... And you thought there was never a girl online or netto ge no yome wa onaku no noko ja nai to omotta. And this is on episode 4 so far we got into, currently streaming on Funimation. And this one follows Hideki, or as he's known online as Rushin. And he plays an online game, and he had a kind of a bad thing happen in the past. He ran into this girl named Nekohime, who he kind of got a crush on in the game, and he confessed to her, but then she's like, oh, sorry, I'm actually a guy in the real world, and that kind of crushed him, so he claimed that he would always separate the real world with and the game world for forever. And he joined a guild and ran around with the guild for a long time, and got to meet the people, got to know the people, and at some point he decides that he's going to they're going to have a meeting in the real world. And is it that bad since it's in the first episode that we should reveal the big secret about the show?
No, pretty much everybody knows already.
Okay.
Everybody's been throwing it around. Nobody's hiding it, so...
He basically, they do him, and if you're super hyper spoiler, you can skip forward. They have a meeting together, and come to find out all the members of his guild, except for Akko, this girl Akko that really likes him in the game and claims that they've married each other in the game. All the people in his guild who are all guys end up being girls in the real world. And oh, by the way, one of them is his classmate Akane, who kind of seems like she's tsundere to him in class. And the class president, or the student council president, oh yeah, by the way, that's also, the guy is actually a girl in the real world. And yeah. And so what kind of comes from that is this Akko girl, who supposedly they are married in the game, is actually one of his classmates. She's like really connected to him and still calls him Rushin in the real world, and still claims that they're married in the real world. And everybody's kind of realizing, wait, this girl doesn't really separate the game from reality. And that's really the stick of the show, is just them trying to figure out a way of helping her make that divide. Which kind of gets to my first issue with the show, is the main quirk of the show is supposedly about them trying to help this Akko girl make a divide between reality and the game. But in actuality, they've never really ever... but maybe one single time shown how she can't make that divide, I guess is the point. Yeah, she calls them their game names in the real world, but I don't really see that being an issue, because if you play an online game with somebody for a long time and then you go talk to them in the real world, you might actually jokingly call them their game name, or actually might actually call them their game name, not jokingly. So I guess my issue is that they haven't really shown how she does not see that divide, and they're making it the central focus. The only real saving point is that I kind of like the characters. I like their goofy back and forth between the real world and playing the game. But outside of that, I guess it's really not doing what I originally thought the show was going to do, which was why she has this issue, and the comedy behind that. I mean, the cover made it out like she's going to be running around the hallways in some kind of battle attire from the game, and thinking that she's got to hit another student because she thinks it's a goblin or something. I don't know, but that's really not happening.
Yeah, I don't mind the comedy. I think the comedy is fine. I think it's more frustrating on the idea of what they're... I guess it's kind of the same as what Andrew's saying. They kind of made this main shtick of, hey, this is what we're trying to accomplish, and yet they're never accomplishing it. So they just go back to the comedy, which, like I said, the comedy works, and it works fine for me. I like the characters. I think that they're, for the most part, adorable. I don't much care for the main guy, but it doesn't bother me. But I do think that in the long run, I think a lot of people are going to get turned off by this, because it's never going to get, it doesn't feel like it's ever going to get to a point.
Yeah, it's not doing anything really spectacular is really my point. Next one we have is probably the one most everybody's excited about, including the next one after that. So we have a two in a row epicness. First one we have is Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress, or Kotetsu Jo no Kabaneri. We're currently on episode 3. We know that because we watch through every single episode every time we watch it. I'm not sure how long
it's kind of turned into a thing. I like it. I don't know how long we're going to be able to continue doing that.
Well, what happened is we watched the first episode, and then, of course, the second episode was delayed because of the earthquake. And then we went to go watch the second episode 2 weeks later, and we were like, well, I guess we could just watch I think Chris joked, like, well, it's not like you can't watch the first episode again. And I'm like, sure. We watched the first episode, second episode, and then third episode comes out, and I did it, and I was waiting for Chris to say something. He didn't say anything. So I guess we're watching through the whole thing again. But this one takes place in essentially in a world where when the Industrial Revolution happened, at the same time these monsters appeared, and these monsters could not be defeated without piercing these cages that were encapsulating their hearts. And they kind of look like zombies, but they kind of have this element of... We've kind of recently been kind of establishing, there's kind of this element of almost vampirism in them as well, is this idea of craving blood, and they're not really zombies, they're not really vampires. I think what's interesting is that they're called Kabane, but they're not really easily described as being, they're zombies, which is kind of cool. I like that they're these things that they're really their own thing. But essentially, these are kind of overtaking the world, and mankind have to border themselves up in forts to protect themselves. And the only way to kind of transfer goods and people between these forts is through these gigantic steam trains or locomotives that they send between these locations. And we are, of course, in this one location, which is on an island. It's called Hinomoto, and we meet Ikoma. And Ikoma is... He's an engineer that works on the trains, but on the side, he's trying to develop a weapon that they can use against these Kabane, because, like I said, they have these shields around their hearts, and that's the way that they claim that they're supposed to kill them. And while he's working on that, something ends up happening with an incoming ship that ends up kind of forcing the village to kind of go into chaos. He ends up using his tool to fight off one of the things, and then discovering that he has created this weapon to fight against these things. At the same time as people are fleeing, you meet this girl named Mume, and she is like incredibly skilled. She's able to fight off these Kabane, who pretty much most people don't know they can't kill them. They have no tools to kill them, and they're kind of forced to flee. Do we want to get into what Akoma turns to? I guess it's one of those kind of, it's like episode 1, but it's also kind of cool. So it's, I guess I'll leave it at that. I think what's really cool is they have this element of the Kabane that they're fighting against are really unique and kind of cool. The element of people that are, the world they're kind of forming around these Kabane is just really interesting. The level of detail in this world, be it like the locomotives that come in, how they're shielded, how they have these holes to shoot out to the Kabane as they attack, how they bring these locomotives into each village, the mechanics of the bridges, the clean down process, the screening process, the fear that people have of the Kabane, how these Bushi, which are pretty much the rulerships of this location, how they use that fear of the Kabane to control and justify anything they want to justify. All that stuff is just very well crafted, and there's so much detail in this world that I'm absorbed every time we watch it. And like I said, we've watched the first three episodes over and over again just to watch this stuff.
We've watched episode 1 3 times. We've watched episode 2 2 times. We watched episode 3 once.
The fighting sequences. There was this fighting sequence with Mume. If you've watched any of the PVs, you've seen Mume and her awesome choreography and fighting things. She's just excellent. Her attitude is just perfect. Mume is, I don't have Yume anymore from the previous season. Mume is my replacement because she's perfect.
Best
she's just
scroll
awesome.
Of the season.
easily. So I'm really loving the show because the action's great, the detail's great, the visuals are great, action is excellent, and I kind of like what they're doing with the Kabane and when people are infected with the Kabane and turning, and this, I guess, what it ends up coming into with the later season or the later episodes, and how they have kind of this third, I guess just say it's really hard. I really want to get into it, but it was a really cool little shocking thing they're doing. they're doing something really fascinating with the characters right now. And I'm really interested to see what they do with it going forward. I'll just leave it at that. I hate not wanting to spoil things sometimes.
So now it's my turn to dance around while I gush. Yeah.
Get ready for Uda's size because he's not going to do it right.
Go watch it. It's great. It looks great. It sounds great. What else do I got?
You spoiled everything with that. How dare you? Oh my gosh, the detail they put in things. There's a particular point in which Ayame, who's like the princess of this, the Hime of this location, she has to take this key out in order to turn on this locomotive, and she lifts then it's on a necklace, and she's lifting it up over her head, and it catches her bangs, and they took the time to animate her hair kind of fluffing around the chain of it, and it's like they knew that was going to look gorgeous, didn't they? It's just a gorgeous show. I love it.
Yeah, it does. It looks great. I absolutely. If you don't watch anything else, watch the first and second episode. If you're not sold by this show, there's no helping you.
Okay, and I also want to address this. As well. Yes, it did definitely feel like this was going to be another Attack on Titan. Same group, Wit Studio, same guy. Even kind of feels like it with everything kind of hitting the fan with the first episode. But if you think this show is defined by Attack on Titan, you are greatly discounting it. Something that is going to be something special. I think this show has already established itself as doing something much more better than Attack on Titan, in my opinion. I think this show, already in 3 episodes, has beaten Attack on Titan into the ground. I think it's much better. It's going to be a much better series.
It's like that. When I say episode 2, it's really because it's going to show you where this show can shine. But one of the things that I love about the first episode is, let's just say a situation happens where there is one character involved with fighting against a Kabaneri. Let's just say that. I'm not going to say who, not going to say what. It was clumsy, frustrating, dirty. I loved that this was not some kind of a super act of heroism. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It was, like I said, it was clumsy. The person was shifting around trying to get it straight. I loved that. It was that's the kind of stuff that I think works for this show. It's not overpowering the characters, although there is definitely some overpowered characters. That's what I like about this show. It's not, and as far as the gore thing, it doesn't feel too dark because it's not focusing on gore. Somebody got bit, it hurt, and then they moved on. Now we got to deal with it. What do we do with it from that point? It doesn't sit there and go, oh, he's stuck in pain. And no, it just goes, we deal with it now, and we take care of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's why, it's a dark show, but it doesn't sit there and wallow in it. That's why I can watch this kind of show.
Yeah, definitely recommend it. Next one we have is Kumamiko. We're gonna go out of the darkness into the happiness, and they're both equally as awesome. So, I would say, of course, Kabaneri's
Miko-san, Miko-san.
Yes, Kumamiko, Girl Meets Bear. We're on episode 4. It's currently streaming on Funimation, and this one follows Machi, and she is in a remote rural area, and she is the priestess girl of this particular shrine that has a bear named Natsu, which is like this spirit bear, and everybody, it's a bear of the shrine. So there you go. And the kind of the weird thing about this is that Machi has been being in this role for such a long time, and she wants to go to school in the big city. She wants to go to Tokyo. She's sick of being out in this rural area. She's sick of everything involving with it, but she wants to go. And Natsu, who it kind of puts him as being her guardian, kind of doesn't want her to go and says that she can't make it in the real world. So
she's super sheltered. Super sheltered. So
he decides that he's going to start tasking her with like quizzes and tasks to kind of prove to her that she can't really make it out in the real world. And that's kind of the joke that kind of been laid in going into this series is just absolutely cute and adorable Machi and her desire to go out into the real world, and the fact that she is totally not ready for that, and how Machi doesn't like to point out, but does point it out, and the kind of the weird people that are surrounding them. And oh, by the way, Machi is absolutely adorable. And
hey, can I add? Yeah, I agree. Machi is adorable. But I also wanted to add that Machi is adorable.
It is, yes. Good point, Chris. I like that. I will raise you another point, which is Machi is adorable.
There you go.
But it's just a really sweet show. It's very funny, very cute characters. I've had way too much fun watching this show. I like the kind of the goofy little task that Machi, Natsu puts her through this whole thing of, we'll go down to this, go to this supermarket and buy this particular thing, and how Machi takes it as this huge test of courage, and that she overplays everything that she needs to do it, but then at the same time questions, well, if I don't do it this way, then is he testing me here? Is this a test? Is this a test kind of thing? It's just
Did you go and look up what a heat tech was?
Huh?
Did you go and look up what a heat tech was?
Yeah, it was an undersuit. She showed it.
Yeah, it's an undersuit. I thought it was a bathing suit, but no, it's actually a full body suit.
Yeah. She's really proud of the fact that she took it. But yeah, I will kind of warn people that there is an element of ecchi in there that some people might find upsetting, but I don't think they play it on too much. I think a lot of times they use it as humor.
I mean, if you want to call, it's more humor than anything. It's more just adult humor. It's not necessarily.
There's the legend of, for example, there's a legend of Natsu and the legend of the Natsu bear, where it came from, and the legend of Machi's predecessors, and how Natsu basically came to be. And it's kind of a story about a woman getting with a bear, and they talk about that, and they start getting uncomfortable with the idea that, well, what if Natsu and Machi are the same way? And they kind of play off that joke, and then it's they always kind of come around at the end and go, wait, no, it's not really like that, it's this way. And I'm just saying, some people might find it offensive, but I think it's cute and it's adorable. I think it's mostly innocent and fun.
Yeah, I totally didn't. I mean, even when the joke, it was a split joke, and then it moved on, and then it did one other joke, and then it moved on. And it's I understand why some people were getting a little turned off, but if you take that in consideration to the entire show, you're talking about a joke, one joke. It didn't linger on it. I mean, I don't know. It is what it is.
That's why I said I leave it to people to decide.
Yeah, I got more of a kick out of Calories' reaction. I love that you have her in here, because we've got to get her
sexual harassment.
Sexual harassment. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. But yeah, that I got more of a kick out of that than I was frustrated at this weird scene that they made a joke in 1 second. I had more fun with her reaction to it than I did out of that. So I almost would play it off as that was a kind of a setup for this joke. I take that for what it is. I mean, whatever. And even when they went on to Machi and Natsu, it was that was really more not that as the joke as his setup for what was happening after that.
And it's sad to make it too much of an issue, because it's really once you start getting into the show, you realize the relationship between Machi and Natsu. It's a very sweet little relationship.
Yeah, it's more of a parental type thing. Yeah. I think it's a warm and loving relationship between those two, but it has nothing to do with anything sexual in any way. And understand,
okay, Chris,
understand we're more reacting to other people's reactions to this show, and it's that's not what this show is.
Yeah. But yeah, Machi's adorable.
Yes.
Okay. One more point in there.
By the way, Machi is adorable.
Okay. Good. Let's move on to My Hero Academia, or I didn't have the Japanese name on there. Oh well, that's fine. We're currently on episode 4. It's streaming on Funimation and Hulu. And this one takes place in a world that is filled with superheroes. 80%, so to speak. 80% of people have been born with quirks. These quirks are basically a number name for superpowers. And so it's like a 20% chance that you might not be born with a quirk, which is the case for a particular main character named Deku. He is, even as a child, he is highly inspired by the superhero or this quirk user named All Might. And he aspires to be a quirk user and be a hero for people. But then it comes to find out that, yeah, Deku, you actually don't have a quirk, and we pretty much confirmed it because there's this weird way of X-raying one of your pinky toes, and if it has this extra digit, then you can't have a quirk or something like that. But he doesn't let it bring him down. He decides that he is going to still pursue becoming a superhero. He wants to aspire to join the most prestigious school for superheroes, which is UA High, and much to the disdain of those around him, even his classmates like to joke about the fact that he's trying to go to UA High even though he has no quirk. But you're following him as he goes about this. And then at some point, he ends up meeting All Might himself, and All Might, he asks All Might if there's a way that a person without a quirk can become a hero, and All Might puts it to him very bluntly that no, there really is no way to become a superhero. But that's really the setup of the show. So you're basically meeting Deku, a lot of quirk users who have all their own special ways of using abilities, and kind of the struggle of Deku trying to become one of these superheroes and go to UA High. So yeah. I like the show. I've been enjoying it. I think it has an interesting style to it. There's times where I don't like the style, especially like with Deku when he was a kid, and it kind of ruined the more emotional moments of the childhood moments with how dorky his childhood self looked. But other than that, I've enjoyed most of the character designs. I think it has a fascinating style to it. It has an interesting setup. I think it's been taking a little bit too long for that setup, but I think it might just be because that's the point of it, is to not get too much into, hey, everybody, we're now a team going off and fighting bad guys. I think it's more of Deku's struggle and going into trying to be something he wasn't born as, and I think that's kind of the interesting struggle. I'm good on it so far.
Yeah,
I'm super excited about it.
I'm enjoying it surprisingly a lot more than I thought I would. I went into it because of how I felt about and I know I take that back. I'm not even doing this. I am enjoying myself watching the show. I enjoying generally all of the characters that they have presented to me, and I'm having a lot of fun watching it. I think it's an interesting world, a lot of interesting characters.
Yeah. That was short.
Yeah, well, I wanted to hit another point, but I don't want to do that because I don't want that to be the basis of where this...
Like we did with Kumamiko. Cerberus is our next one. We're currently on episode 4 of it. It's currently streaming on Crunchyroll, or the other title for it is Seisen Cerberus Ryokoku no Fatalities. Was that really fatalities? I think it's philosophy or something. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, this show is taking place on a continent where there's 3 major sources of power, or kingdoms of power, and they're always kind of at this kind of standstill. None of them wants to really bother the other one, but they know that any catastrophe could cause them to go at war. But within the middle of that, there's also this appearance of this demonish dragon called Dragonzord, or Dagonzord, and mankind kind of had a band together to try to fight this thing off. Right at the bat, you kind of watch as our main character Hiro, his parents tried to, along with 100 other wizards, to try to seal away Dagonzord, but it didn't work because some kind of a sabotage happens, and some kind of connections happens between Hiro and Dagonzord. Is like this mark appears on Hiro, and it almost seems like they kind of feel each other's pain. And it kind of skips forward. Now Hiro is older, and he is still trying to find and kill this Dagonzord, and he is kind of raised by his master, who is Jiru, who kind of trains him, and they are traveling to train and find Dagonzord and kill it. in the village they're at the beginning, they kind of have this whole kind of happenings happen within the village where there was this orb that was being brought there that can kind of grant wishes, but then while it was being shown, Dagon Zord shows up and he tries to defeat him and fails miserably, and it disappears. I don't know. I'm struggling with the show.
Now, you
want to go first for once?
Yeah. You know how you were saying that one of the shows earlier we were talking about was chasing its tail. That's what I see this one doing.
Oh my gosh, this isn't chasing its tail. It's got its face in the ground.
Now, on the flip side, I do like the characters. I like a lot of the characters. I just don't see them doing anything. It's pretty much Hiro's going out and swinging at slimes that are jumping in his face and getting mad at Giru for not taking him out to go and kill Dagonzord. That's all that's happening in the last...
And it's like, are we not learning anything by the blobs popping on your face that you can't fight Dagonzord?
Yeah, and that's my big frustration with this show. It as far as a show that is chasing its tail, that is what this one is doing. We got... Hiro looked really awesome in the first episode, and then suddenly he went to level minus 50.
He leveled.
So I don't know. I love the characters, so I'll sit here and follow them through writing hell.
Yeah, I'm mixed on the characters. There may be a couple characters that I kind of like in the show, but for the most part, it's a huge struggle because when we see this, we're like, oh my gosh, it's like a dark fantasy that's going to be really cool. It's a full-on, no question, this is a full-on fantasy show. There's no trapped in MMOs. There's no trapped in fantasy world. This is a straight-up fantasy world, and I was like so on board with it. And then, like Chris mentioned, it's stuck in one place. Hiro is not a terrible character. He's a weak character trying to take on something that nobody can defeat. And it doesn't make any sense how he can do that. Unless at some point they establish this mark on his neck is going to unleash some super duper powerful thing. You're not there yet.
When all this happened, he was what, 5 years old? And now he's at least 10 years have passed. We're going to say at least 10. I mean, he looks a little young, but I don't think he's probably 20 years old. But I mean, if we give him at least 10 years, okay, Giru has been training him for roughly 10 years because he calls him master, or he calls him Hiro-sama. So obviously he's been around him for a little while. They have this kind of master student relationship going on. But you've been training him for 10 years and he can't get past level 2 slimes. You've failed miserably in your training sessions.
Well, there's still also the issue where they haven't showed that he has any kind of power, and if Giru can beat him so easily, there's no way and if he can't beat Dagonzord, you're off. You can't do it. The impossible's there unless something super duper unlocks, which can happen, I guess. I don't know.
I'd be more on board with him really sucking if it was right after the drag. If he was 10 years old and he was sitting there fighting a slime, then I accept that. But you've got 10 years to train him up a little bit.
You failed as a master.
You failed miserably. But no, I like the characters. I just don't think that the story is working at all.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on to our next one. We have a Joker game. We're currently on episode 4 of that one. It's currently streaming on Crunchyroll. And this one takes place in Japan about 1937 during the eve of World War II. And there is a D agency that is currently being put together, which essentially trains spies to work for the government. And right off the bat, you're kind of following Sakuma, who has been dispatched from the military to go and work undercover in this D agency and kind of keep it under check. And that's kind of how the story starts out with the first episode. It's kind of a two-parter. But it seems like going on into episode 4, it's going more into the range of you're following each of these spies that are kind of in different jobs, different tasks in different countries, trying to be a spy. So really some kind of spy game type of setting. The first episode, like I said, followed Sakuma, who was kind of keeping them in check, and it kind of goes into what can he find in this agency that might be used, or what he can find in the agency, and what kind of comes from that. The next kind of segment was a guy that was it France?
No, France, and then to China.
Yeah, and the last one was China. Yeah, Shanghai, China. And then Shanghai, China was more of there was an explosion that happened. He was supposed to investigate a possible spy within their group of military. So that's basically the gist so far. They haven't really gotten into something that's like an overall plot. I'm assuming that's probably going to come later once they kind of establish all these kind of things that are happening around.
I think the overall plot is just what they're doing.
You think?
Mm-hmm.
No, I haven't really looked into anything outside of it.
Obviously, they've been split up into different places.
Yeah, they're sent out, and their task is to do whatever job they're supposed to do and not get caught. But yeah, I'm enjoying this show purely for the sake that it is a kind of a period piece, kind of getting this insight into spy tactics within another country, and that's kind of the draw that I've had so far. I think the first one was an okay story. I like the build up to the kind of the conclusion of it. Didn't think the conclusion was that great. The second one was really interesting. I liked the kind of insight into like a rebellion that could be happening and the kind of distrust that's happening within the rebellion. And then the last one that we had was, I think, probably one of the more integral one. It had a lot more going on to keep track of that I thought was cool as well. So it is kind of a cool little spy games mystery type show. Really, really down to earth, really grounded in reality, and that's kind of what I'm kind of drawn to it the most so far.
Yeah, I think it's an intriguing story. Unfortunately, I'm not really feeling much of the characters, but that's kind of, I think, the point is these are kind of faceless people, so it's kind of difficult to actually...
You're not going to have Moe blog characters that are
you're
spies.
not supposed to really like these guys. They're kind of distasteful. So take that for what it is. I like I said, I think I do appreciate it for what it is. I think it is got a very intriguing story going on. And that I think is it looks good.
I thought the characters were really solid. I mean, they're not super likable, but they're grounded in reality, so it's not like they're going to do something that's going to catch your attention and make you love them really quickly. It's more of a thing of, like, the second story arc that they had was really cool because it had a character that was essentially like behind enemy lines kind of thing, and his kind of, right off the bat, you realize that he's got amnesia, but he's still trying to recall his training as a spy, and that's really, really cool, and how it kind of eventually gets to the point where he realizes who he is, and I thought that was really cool. And then the last arc that we had, which was a guy that was, it wasn't really one of the spies, it was really just like a normal guy that was in the military, that particular group. And I thought he was a cool character as well, because it was kind of one of those characters that he's a do-gooder, and he's faced with a situation that is very, very questionable, and how is he going to handle it kind of thing, and the bravery that he kind of has to build up with himself.
The guy who... Okay.
Shanghai, China one.
Right. He actually was a spy.
No, the guy that was the reporter was a spy. He was egging him into what he needed to do.
Oh, I thought it was the other way. Okay. Yeah. I'll go with what you got. You're catching more than I am, so...
But yeah, a really cool little period piece. If you're looking for something that is not your typical anime, this is a period piece. This is grounded in reality. It is gritty in that regard. I think it's a great show to check out. I hope that it kind of... I like and dislike the episodic feel of it right now. I'm hoping that we'll get something that kind of drags out a little bit longer, so that it has more to it than just something that is self-contained in one single episode. I think they can kind of pull that off. They do try it out, so... Definitely a recommendation. Looking excited to see what they do from it going forward. Next one we have is Crane Game Girls. Wow.
I mean, do we really want to?
Sure, why not? Give it its 2 minutes of fame, I guess. This one, we're on episode 4 of it. Don't ask me why. It's on Crunchyroll. It's a short series. I guess that's the only reason why. And this is from the makers of, what was that last one that we watched with the cooking girls?
Oh, what is it? It does not surprise me one bit.
That's why I was joking about the idea that they fixed the elbows. What was it called? It was JK Meshi.
JK Meshi, that's it.
Yes, the same group, JK Meshi. So they have improved the elbows, but they have gone down another way. It seems like they're getting better. That's not saying much though. But this essentially follows 3 girls.
If JK Meshi was 5 out of 100, this one is 10 out of 100, right? So they've doubled their ability.
I guess. I mean, I think they increased the frame rate a little bit. I'm not sure. But yeah, just suffice to say, it doesn't look good at all. It really looks like a Flash animated show like you used to see on Newgrounds a long time ago by a kid in his room. Not very well animated. It essentially follows 3 girls, and they want to be idols, and they are commissioned by a monkey to go and play crane games in order to be idols. And in actuality, the crane games themselves, when they complete a particular crane game tactic, they power up, it shoots a laser to space and stops meteorites from hitting Earth.
And they all 3 have to do it at the same time. This is important.
I don't know if they've really established that.
Yes, they did. They did it in the 2nd episode or the 3rd or the yeah, I think it was the 2nd because we've only seen 3, right?
4.
Okay, maybe it was in.
I know it's been blurring together.
But one of the episodes, one of them had wandered off, and the other 2 had gotten.
She was wanting to buy it. That's right. She wanted Daddy to buy
it. And the gorilla lady. I don't know if she's a gorilla or if she is the lady that is. The computer turns her into. I don't know.
I think the gorilla is the boss, and the boss tells her what to do. I don't know.
Anyway, she didn't do it. The lady got mad, and then so they all 3 had to do it at the same time. And then the little flashy dirt thing, it shot a laser into the
Super Saiyan, and
it shot a laser into the sky, moved the meteorites off to the side. The same 2 that were coming the first episode, and then they moved them again in the 3rd episode. I don't think that these meteors are actually going to hit Earth. I think they're just all being moved.
I think it's just they're reusing assets over and over again. Let me pretty much lay down what this show is beneficial from. What you can get from this is it's really an insight into crane games, and a lot of stuff they play off of is the element of how can you different crane game tactics. How can you win something? And they use tactics like the tumble method or whatever, where you put the crane down and it knocks things into the hole, or using the grabbers to grab these small holes in the sides of the figures to pick it up, and then playing off the joke of the idea that a lot of people, instead of winning the crane game, they'll just buy the figure from online because it's much easier and probably cheaper because they can't grab the figure or whatever. So that is about the only thing that I kind of gathered from the show that's interesting, but it's stuff that I've seen before because you can go on YouTube and find these crazy skilled people that have played crane games way too much, and they can empty out a crane game station. I mean, it's something you can find elsewhere without having to watch Flash style animation. So it's there. It's a short. Check it out if you want to, if that's something that interests you. Let's move on to Bakuon.
Okay.
Bakuon or K-On! With K-On! I'm going to continue my thing here. K-On! With motorcycles. This one follows Hane, and Hane rides her bike to school every day, and at some point she is trying to go up this really, really difficult hill or mountain. Somebody just zoops past her on a motorcycle, and come to find out when she gets to school that there's this girl there, Anza, who is the one that was riding the motorcycle, and come to find out that the school that she's going to now allows them to ride motorcycles. So over time, she finds out there's a club there that's for people that drive motorcycles to school, and they kind of Hane goes out to get her license so that she can get her own motorcycle, and shenanigans happen. It's basically this group of this group of high schoolers getting together in this motorcycle club and exploring all these facets about motorcycles, what they enjoy about it, the best brands, the arguments about the best brands of motorcycles, and everything else cute and moe. So
no love for American motorcycles in this show,
no,
or anything in the West. It's all Honda versus Suzuki. So
this one troubled me because this is one of those. It's one of those cases where you're watching figure sites, and at some point a figure shows up, and you go, "That's a cool character on a bike," and then at some point, way down the road after the figure's released, you see the show, and then you go, "Oh, I wish they didn't release that."
Poor Andrew's very, very upset that he missed out on his twin tail biker girl. And Rin. And I don't think he's ever going to get over it. So you guys are going to hear about this all year.
So hopefully someday on the aftermarket, she'll pop up on there. It was a really great little figure too. But yeah, I really am enjoying this show. It's hitting all the marks for me. Every now and then it gets a little bit too motorcycle otaku, but still really enjoy it because it just has great chemistry, just these laugh out loud moments, like especially with Rin. I think Rin is just this, I feel so bad for her because every time they show her past, it's always like extremely dark, but at the same time it's funny, and I'm going, why am I laughing at this? This is so bad.
Yeah, just really messed up stories. I wouldn't say they're dark, just.
And then I remember the foxes brought him something when he was in the hospital. No. Oh, he's sending her off. Oh, so bad. Oh, why am I laughing? Why am I laughing? It's so bad. And yeah, Hane's cute with her desire to do the motorcycle, and then her relationship with her motorcycle was cute. Anza, I'm kind of mixed on. I liked her whole family situation, how that tied with the other characters, but probably the only character, and of course you imagine you probably like Hijiri also with the more like her butler, yeah. He's like this, well, it's a mixture of both of them because the butler's always like, I came from some war and I'm this crazy strong person. At the same time she's over there like, ooh, we're doing something bad, aren't we? Just great characters.
She wants to be a delinquent.
But yeah, just fantastic characters. I love their chemistry. I love the humor in it. It's just hitting all the marks. I mean, I'm even overlooking every now and then the CG looks a little off, but even then it looks good for what they're doing, and so I appreciate it for that. So, just a full-on recommended for me. I'm surprised how much I'm enjoying it. For you?
Yeah, I'm truly loving it. Goofy girls doing things with bikes, and it hits all the marks. It keeps its humor at a level that's not too
it's not zany. It's on cue.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, yeah, some of the stuff that they do is just really random. I mean, I'm sorry, Motorcycle Jesus out of random because
about the only time it was kind of random.
I think that it does pretty fine at that. The little chicken race, the only one who could do it is the ones that didn't care if they lost their bikes. So yeah, I think it works really well for what it's trying to do.
It's an excellent show though. Next we have Super Lovers. We were kind of debating if we were going to do this one because I watched one episode and was like, this isn't for me. Good night, this kind of thing. But
I went ahead.
You kept watching it. Let me quickly, for a synopsis for at least the first episode, anyways. We have Haru, who has just returned to his mother's place. They were claiming that she was ill. He arrived there. She was just fine. But it was all for him to get to know her new adopted child, Ren, who is this boy who is just very tomboyish. He's stuck out in the woods all the time. He's gotten in favor of these wolves in the area, and come to find out Haru has actually had this favorite. Was it wolves or just stray dogs?
I think probably wolf hybrids, but yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much as far as I got. And at some point, Haru was supposed to go back home because he wasn't going to stay there, and they've gotten a connection between him and Rin, so it's got that element. He doesn't want him to leave. This new older brother that is kind of taking care of him, and I guess he returned home and left Rin behind.
The second episode, truth be told, I was like, am I watching a totally different story?
I forward.
Yes and no. Suddenly, Haru had some kind of, I guess he broke his brain or something and lost his memory, and so he didn't remember Rin. But Rin remembered this weird promise that they made that he was going to go and live with him. And all said and done, it finally explained what was going on, and I understood it. But here's the thing with this, because it is a BL, but it's like a step up. They are actually kissing, and I don't have a problem with that. My issue is that it falls into this top bottom problem that I think that me and my brother have mentioned before. It's this you can't. They have a hard time expressing writing a character who is possibly interested in another guy. So they end up in this weird realm where the only way that they can really truly express it is by the top bottom way of portraying things, where Haru is kind of this top. He is a very, I don't want to say an aggressive character, but he is kind of aggressive. And then your bottom is Rin, which is this kind of a younger character. And that does I think that could turn off a lot of people. I just, in my brain, just go, okay, obviously he's old enough to be doing this stuff, but it did kind of bother me a little bit. This kid does look like he is younger. And so I did have a little bit of a problem with that. But my bigger issue is that their relationship does not feel natural. It is literally he's walking up and for whatever reason, he's giving him a kiss. Why? It wasn't that it was a attractive situation. It wasn't anything like that. So the
Fujoshis go squeak.
Right. The kid Rin is kind of a stone-faced character. He's very, very turned off emotionally, and then you have Haru, he's not super affectionate, but he does come off as the kind of character who's open about his affections. It's just not and it never really built a relationship. It was just more like he was the only one that was there, and the kid kind of latched on to him because, well, they need to have a reason to be together, and so he forced him into sleeping in the bed together, and that's fine and okay. So that's how I feel about the show. I think it's vaguely interesting as far as characters and their stories, but you have the stone-faced character, the character who is barely interesting because, I don't know, the show didn't really work for me. I mean, hopefully it'll work for somebody else. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah. I was kind of pointing out to him, it's like, it's one of those things that kind of falls in the area of like the Yuri shows like Sakura Chick always bring up, even though I didn't watch it all the way through, so I can't say it's completely definitive, but it's this element of, are you developing characters? Are you just saying, here, look at these two characters. We're bringing these two characters together. Aren't you excited? Kind of thing.
Yeah,
so and that ends up being the defining thing of the show and not the characters.
Well, they even added two more brothers in the next episode, and one of them's kind of antagonistic towards Ren, and the other one really could care less. So and then it's just been moving on, and the story as a total plot line is really whether or not Ren should be accepted in the family, and that's about it. So I don't know what they're really driving for, except for that dude kisses the little boy. That's about it.
Yeah. Moving on, we have Terraformars Revenge. I am currently on episode 5. This is currently streaming on Crunchyroll and Hulu. And yeah, just continuing on from I did a review for the the first season of Terraformars. And it's pretty much the same thing going into this one. It's kind of continuing on. If you've watched the first season, it's essentially mankind is overpopulating. They send cockroaches and moss to Mars to get it to make its own atmosphere. And then when they finally go to check it out later, there's huge cockroach humanoid people that they evolved into, and they're killing all the scientists that go to try to check it out. And so this is a point in which there's a virus they claim is origin from there that is killing people on Earth, and so they want to send equipped people this time to go to there, get specimens, bring them back so they can find a cure. And what they've been doing, mankind's been doing, is developing new types of humans where they breed in genes from, I think they kind of do a mixture of insects and whatnot, and animals. And so they're sending them to check this out again to see if they can, extract samples. But in the first season, we kind of just had them kind of arrive. They got sabotaged, they got separated, and all havoc was breaking loose. And then this season, it's really the undertones of the first season where they were talking about there being betrayals happening between the countries. That's kind of coming into play now. I would say the biggest issue really is in the fact that the animation quality dropped like a rock with this one. It wasn't that great to look at to begin with, and now it's even worse. And I'm just kind of, like I said before, I'm just trying to wait for that moment that I get that thing that I got spoiled from the first season, or when I watched the first season and got spoiled into something for the second season. I'm still waiting for that to happen, and that's the only thing that I've been watching for. But it still has that same issue with the first season where I was like, this is not a good show, and then every now and then it does something that surprises me, and that's the same thing that is with the season. I've just really not been enjoying it, and then suddenly, something really cool happens, and it's like a 5-minute segment, and I'm going, this is cool. And then we're back to the usual, and it's like, okay, I got my cool 5-minute moment of the entire season, and that's probably all I'm going to get. So I can't really recommend it unless you're just looking for something that's just stupid violence and combat, and even then it just doesn't do it all that well.
Lots of blood and gore and bones and
that's the problem with the second season also, is that the first season was like just brutal. People were dying left and right, and now it's like, I guess they sussed out all the people that aren't the ones that are genetically enhanced, and so now nobody dies, and they're holding their cards safely a lot more than they used to. So.
I was pointing out that fact that they ran out of people to kill.
Pretty much, that's pretty much it. But yeah, I'm still waiting for that one moment that I'm waiting for. I don't know if it'll ever even happen this season, but I got a cool little moment with Hong, and I'll just leave it at that. I tweeted about it. I was like, cool. Every now and then they do something that's really cool, and then we're back to normal. But yeah, Sailor Moon Season 3 has begun. You're on Episode 4, I'm assuming?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So what are you thinking so far with this one?
Looks great. I'm having fun.
They've improved the animation.
Yes.
They're no longer CG transformations.
It looks beautiful.
5 out of 5 from Andrew. You have not CG transformations. Andrew's good. Is the opening at least not CG also?
Yes.
Okay, good.
It looks gorgeous. I
guess they decided all the budget they wasted trying to fix the Blu-rays for the first season that they might just go ahead and do it properly.
The first time, and then they won't have the problem.
Are they still on bi-weekly?
No, actually, it is weekly.
I was thinking because it's on 4 episodes.
Mm-hmm. I'm absolutely loving it. It is beautiful. I having the girls come out and do their lines. I did get a kick out of it. I was watching, I want to say the second episode, because I waited for Andrew as long as I could, and I knew that we were going to be talking about this, and I was like, I know you wanted to catch up, but I need to watch this, otherwise I won't be able to say anything about it. And so I went ahead and I binged it yesterday or the day before, and I absolutely got a kick out of it. The second episode, they went ahead and, oh yeah, you guys bashed us about this thing, so we're going to spend 4.5 minutes on a transformation sequence, and then another 2 minutes on like their catchphrases. But it was so beautiful. I was almost in tears. I think it looks great. Unfortunately, the storyline, it's kind of in the setup mode where they're moving into this new arc. So they're introducing the new characters, reestablishing what was there before, and we're moving into learning what is kind of the bad guys and what they're doing. So I haven't really gotten a lot of time with the newer characters. I'm super excited about it. From what I've seen so far, I'm loving the characters. So I can't wait to tell you all about it in the final when we see all of it. But now I'm excited.
The big question I have really is this changing so much more from the original series? When we got into the extra, I'm assuming this is where we're introducing the other Senshi characters.
Right.
Is it that dramatically different than the original, not the original, but the old animated series?
I haven't watched it.
haven't watched it. Okay. You haven't watched the old ones that far?
Not that far. I never got past the right after the flute kids.
Oh, yeah, I love
Tree
that
of
one.
Life.
I was hoping they would do that, but then
I never got past that. So I love Sailor Moon in the original series. I started going into it and when they started redoing the entire show recently, and I got sidetracked. What can I say?
Eventually we'll get the Blu-rays of those. All right, our last one we have is Rainy Days. This is a continuation. This is the only one that we're kind of covering that is continuing from the from winter on to spring. So we didn't really do a review of the show because it was continuing on. But essentially, so all we're really going to say is talk about a little bit about the second core. And it's nice that we're seeing, I think the first core was really about establishing all the characters. And I'm liking that in this second core, for those who don't know, it's essentially about a group of 4 boys, and they're kind of meeting another group of 4 girls, and their relationships kind of building over time. And it was nice that in the second core, we're really getting into them really establishing their relationships, whereas the first season's their meet. Now it's really kind of getting into them knowing more about each other and really sussing out if they are really, in a relationship. Can they like each other? Do they like each other? Are they just friends kind of thing? So I'm liking that, and that's really where I'm coming, because I think when the new season started, I kind of was thinking of drifting away from it. Like, we have a lot of shows to cover, and this one isn't really a spectacular show, so I might as well put it on the back burner. And then you kind of started.
It was one of those things that when we were watching it, both of us, we were kind of moderately interested, if that makes any sense. Mostly because we liked when they did relationship stuff. But when it came to the boys and their antics together, it wasn't really that much of an interesting thing for us. We didn't, the boys weren't that interesting, and it tended to.
It was focusing too much on Natsuki and his desire for Anna, but they were never really developing it. And that was like the least interesting thing that I had with the show. Is like, I loved Tomoya and Mari. I think Spit Girl and him are just excellent.
Right.
Keiichi is like, I'm scared of him. And then I like whenever Suipon and Yukiko are together. They're just adorable. But that was really all I had. So yeah, I was on the same boat. It was like this, I'm entertained, but every now and then it's like it drags. So
right. And then I went ahead and checked the last 2 episodes and the third episode we watched together, and it was like, we had just come off of an event that really kind of, I'm guessing it kind of just was like, you were like, I'm done with this show, for lack of a better term. And not
that I was an angry.
I know you weren't mad.
There's more important things to be covering than this.
I got you. I don't know how else to better explain it. It's just at that point
I stepped away.
Yeah, you stepped away, and I went ahead and watched the last 2 last 2 episodes, and I was like, okay, I did enjoy Natsuki and Anna, but I knew that Andrew wasn't too into those 2, but the next episode went right into talking about 2 characters that I did know he liked. And I truly loved both of those scenes. And it was like, okay, Andrew, give it another shot. See how you feel about episode X. And we'll see if we continue together in the rest of the show, because I'm pretty much okay with it as it is right now. And if you don't like that episode, I'll go and watch the last episode by myself. And if you do like it, we'll watch it. We'll continue watching it together again. So I'm just above happy with it. So I'm not ecstatic about it. It like I said, it tends to meander into the boys a lot, and the boys are not that interesting by themselves. When they are doing their relationship things, it is kind of warm and fun and enjoyable. So,
and I guess that's the thing, is with this core, they're really focusing on the relationships. Everybody's constantly together. So it stepped away from the idea of here's boys shenanigans together kind of thing.
Right.
But it's surprising that those 2 episodes managed to fix every issue I had. Like, I didn't care about Natsuki and Anna, and then they have their little moment together, and you start seeing why she is kind of distance. Her mind seems distance from the idea of relationship, and they kind of explain that. And then it goes into Mari, who I love, and they made me love her even more because they were doing something with her that I was like, oh, I'm kind of afraid of what they're doing with her. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it makes sense, and she continues on from it in a way that just felt perfect. And I was like, this is a great way that they handled this so well. It didn't turn into, well, here's the next 5 episodes, we're just going to have this battle happening. It kind of put a conclusion to it, but not, it wasn't fixed, but it was fine, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. So I loved it. And I've turned within this second core, I've turned from being, this is an okay show with some cute moments in it, to this seems like a pretty solid romance show. Like it seemed like they're doing enough here that I am interested in, that I think this can actually be a show that I can end up recommending with, some solid guts behind me kind of thing. So take that as you wish. Seems like a good recommendation from me at this point. It seems like it can turn out to be a good show. And it's not a full length show. I think it was 11 minutes long each episode.
Yeah, it's not long at all.
Not full length, so you can kind of tackle it pretty quickly. But that's all we have. That is our spring 2016 first impressions. I think we're going on almost 4 hours now.
Somehow we ended up doing the thing that we said we weren't going to do.
Yeah, we did the review in 2 parts, and we said we never do something like that again. I think it's an issue with we want to spend more time talking about each show, and then what that turns out to be is, oh crap, this is going really long. So you guys can just kind of, hopefully you have been biting this down in segments and have been enjoying it. But yeah, that's everything from the spring. Again, you can find us at otakuspirit.com. You can go there for our news, reviews, and coverage of new on anime, as well as our wonderful community at the top and the forum link. And for those that don't know, some of our community members that we've had in the forums have gone off and made a website of their own because they hate us so much. They ran off and they said, we're going to do this better than you. And they made animearcade.com. And they also have a podcast, Anime Arcade. Check them out on iTunes. We've given them a shout out. They gave us even more of a shout out back that I felt bad because I'm like, wow, they gave us technically like 3 shout outs in one episode. Now I feel like I'm less of a shout outer. So I just want to keep recommending people to go check them out because I think they're a great, they're doing a great podcast. They're great people, and they deserve all the attention they can get. But yeah, that's all we're plugging. We're also on Patreon. Again, appreciate everybody who continues to support us on Patreon. We just got a couple more people that are supporting us and some really supportive comments through that as well. And you don't realize how much that means to us, having that kind of support, both vocally and through financial support. So yeah, that's it. Do you have anything to add?
No.
You derail it like 50 times in the beginning of the episode, and now you're not going to derail it?
I want to watch some more Kabaneri.
Yes, I do want to watch more Kabaneri.
That is. If there's nothing else that I come away from this, I want more Kabaneri.
We can watch the first 3 episodes again.
We might as well.
But yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed, and y'all take care.
Os.